Welcome back to another deadline stream, this time ahead of Double Gameweek 27. Another early morning and a lot to discuss with such a big Double Game Week in our midst as well. But Gameweek 29 will be another one. We've got the blank in between and there is so much to cover, and I'll try to go through every single one of these questions as always and talk about my team selection. Not much has changed from the video, and I think pretty much everything is final with the possible exception of the captaincy. I'm a bit split between Tony and Mitoma. I've currently favoured Mitoma, and even the likes of March are in my thinking, but I think that's the only thing that could realistically change in this team selection. I want to roll the transfer, which was my plan even 2 weeks ago, and I've maintained that, to then bring in the likes of Watkins and possibly Maddison in Gameweek 28, and then bring in some United players in 29, or even bring Salah back in whilst keeping Harry Kane. So there's a lot to think about, and we've also got Odegaard potentially missing the game due to illness. He's first on my bench. I could change the order of that as well, but in terms of transfers, I wouldn't really expect to make one unless we get some news of one of my major players missing out today. There's a lot of talk and concern about the snow for the Brighton game. I wouldn't really be too concerned about that, and I think a yellow ball will suffice in that instance. But let's get straight into your questions. Thank you to everyone who's been tuning in already. We're quite early here, so let's go through it one by one. So Aiden says, Danny Water Steele, I'm going to bench boost. Yep, I think that's fairly standard. With Steele, though, he's not someone I like maybe long-term, or someone that I would back to start every single game until the end of the season. But because you want to bench boost right now, I think it makes perfect sense. I think he starts both of these games in 27. Should I sell Odegaard? I wouldn't, personally, because most people would bench him anyway in 27, me included, and then start him in 28, and then you can sell him in 29. But he is really crucial to navigating Gimmick 28, unless you're going to free hit there. In that case, you could sell him now, but otherwise, I'd keep Odegaard. Welcome, Nick. Yep, I'm doing well. Thank you very much for asking. What about you? What are the second best assets from Brighton and Brentford after Mitoma and Tony? Good question. I think from Brighton, my second favourite overall would be Estupinian right now. So it'd probably be Mitoma first, Estupinian second, and possibly March third. It's really close. You've got a few others like McAllister also in the top 5. You could even put them in the top 3, but that's my top 3 in ranking, and I think, yeah, Estupinian would be second. And as for Brentford, second best, good question as well. Probably David Raya. Yeah, I think he's the second best, then me in third. I know you didn't ask for the third, but just to give you an example of my rankings, and I've got all 3 of them, of course, from those respective teams. Thoughts on Mitoma and Estupinian coming into Double Game at 29 from Japan and Jamaica? I wouldn't be too concerned about that, because the clubs can also speak to the national teams and ask them to maybe release them a little bit earlier, and they don't need to play these games. They're not qualifiers, they're literally just friendlies, and these teams like Ecuador, for example, can try someone else in that position or play their second or third choice left back in that instance. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that, and there's still 3 or 4 days in between. The big problem is the travel. You know, it's pretty much you're traveling across the globe, and that also takes a bit of energy from you, but I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Your top punts for Wildcard this week? That's a great question. I think the top punts, I think March is quite a good one. That is maybe going a bit under the radar. His ownership, the last time I checked, was around 8%. It might have gone up to 10%, but I think he's a really good way of covering this double. I'm looking to possibly sell him in 28, but I think for this week, he could actually be the highest scoring Brighton player or even Double Game Week player at our disposal. So I do like him. Anyone else that I like? I like Rico Henry. I'm not exactly sure what his ownership is, but I think he would be a good one. Liverpool asset would be great, but the problem with them is that they blank in 28, not a great double in 29, and they could also prevent you from making moves in other areas, especially for premiums like Harry Kane, or bringing Haaland back in Game Week 30, I mean, this is the thing, it's kind of difficult to balance everything out, but I really like the Liverpool fullbacks this week, obviously with the exception of, you know, Salah, who's a really obvious captaincy choice, you could say as well, but I wouldn't be buying into Liverpool too much, even with this fixture. I think the main problem as well is navigating Game Week 28. So, look, for me, I probably would say March and Rico Henry would be really good, kind of low-owned differential punts for you. And I'm just really talking about double game weekers. Maybe I will give you a few single game week options as well. Larga says, I still haven't decided if I'm going to wildcard or not. Did you see my team in the Discord? I literally just saw it now. So I went onto Discord, I saw your team. So if I look at it now, so you've got 9 players that are really good. Let's put it this way for this week. You've got Kepa, Trent, Zinchenko, Trippier, Rashford, Martinelli. Gakpo's a good option this week as well, and Salah. And obviously, you can't forget the front two. Rico Lewis is someone that's a big if. I'm not even sure if he's going to start. I don't think he will. And the other one, really, Yeah, apart from him, I think the rest looks really good for this week. I see your dilemma. The problem is, with your proposed transfers, you might struggle to navigate Game Week 28 because, yeah, you're bringing in Tony for Nketiah, that's fine, that's a great transfer, but you're bringing in Mitoma for Martinelli, and in Game Week 28, you'd rather have Martinelli, of course. But honestly, Lager, I think you should make those transfers now for sure, just in case. Set your team up right, and then you could always wildcard in 28. You've got that option, or you might look at it at the end of this, before the deadline, and decide to wildcard now. But really, when I look at your team, Nketiah, Bueno, even Andreas, and then possibly one or two others like Rico Lewis and Gakpo, I wouldn't have on the wildcard for sure. And then I'd also add Trent to that list to navigate Game Week 28. So as a result, if it were me, I know it's a really tricky one and your team looks good on paper this week, Lager, but I probably would wildcard now because the main benefit of it is to navigate Game Weeks 27, 28 and 29, and also you've got the platform from Game Week 30 onwards, and you can also then, until the end of the season, start to take away money from your bench and really focus on your 11 for the last 7, 8 games of the season. So, look, I know it looks really good, your team, but I think to really capitalise on the long term and all these doubles and blanks, I probably would wildcard now. Those two transfers, though, look great if you decide not to. So it's completely up to you there. You will know your team more than I do, of course, but I would probably wildcard if it was me. Will Robertson start? Yeah, I think so. And if yes, you just start between him and Trippier. Still Trippier for me. I wouldn't be surprised if Bournemouth scored, to be quite frank. No, I haven't had any information about that. I don't think any of us seen it. De Zerbi was very optimistic in his press conference yesterday, saying that they'll be fine with a yellow/orange ball, I think he said. So I wouldn't be too concerned. Odegaard is injured. No, he's ill. Will he play? I think he will. He travelled with the squad against Sporting, but there's a bug going around. Other players like Tierney had it, and even Fabio Vieira, who started the game, had it. He might be fine by now, and it's a crucial game for Arsenal tomorrow. So my guess would be that Odegaard is fit. He will try his best to be available, and he will be in the starting 11. But yeah, either way, I think he's benchable this week. Fulham is a tough fixture. Anyone you're worried about? Great question, Matt. So anyone I'm worried about, McAllister is a decent option. Am I worried? I think the biggest worry is Salah in 27. I'm probably going to bring him in 29. It's either him or Bruno coming in to facilitate my bench boost team. But yeah, Salah in 27 will be the big one. His record against Bournemouth is insane. Liverpool have pretty much won every single game against Bournemouth except one or two in recent times. So yeah, they always tend to beat Bournemouth. Then again, their away record is pretty poor, so maybe that could also play a part. But yeah, Salah would be the one that I'm a bit worried about this week, probably. Bench boost in 29, yeah, for me, TCB, that was the plan a week and two ago. Ever since I wildcarded as well, that's cemented, and this wildcard will facilitate an even stronger bench boost, so definitely. And Haaland or Watkins. For this week, I'd rather have Haaland, but honestly, if you're looking at the next 3 game weeks, Watkins is the one. He features in 28 against Bournemouth of all teams as well, and he has a double in 29, which is fairly decent as well. So yeah, Watkins for the next 3, and if I'm wildcarding, I'm going with Watkins. I talked about this in my wildcard team video too, but for this week, I think Haaland outscores him. Start Odegaard or White. I think Odegaard. Arsenal have a great away record and they don't concede too many goals on their travels, but they've conceded a lot of goals recently, and more importantly, a lot of chances. 2 goals conceded to Bournemouth, 2 to Sporting the other day, also conceded 3 to City, and also 2 to Villa. 1 clean sheet against Leicester where they look really defensively solid, but I wouldn't really back Arsenal for the clean sheet here. I think Fulham score and cause a lot of problems. So yeah, Odegaard would be the one, and for me, Odegaard either starts or is on the bench. So, not on the bench, sorry, he misses out entirely. So yeah, I'd probably go for Odegaard. Who to bench if I sell Odegaard to McAllister, March and play 3-4-3? Rashford or Saka? Who to bench? I wouldn't bench Rashford this week. At home to Southampton, he's been so consistent since the World Cup in terms of goals and assists. As much as I like Saka, I think he's one of the best players in the league. I'd go for Rashford in terms of starting him and benching Saka. Yeah, I see what you mean there as well. Yeah, I'd start Rashford and bench Saka. So hopefully you got that. Why'd you pick Trippier instead of Zinchenko? Because Trippier faces Wolves at home, and I think Newcastle are far more likely to keep a clean sheet, and Trippier is far better of an option than Zinchenko. Zinchenko is also more likely to get yellow cards. There's a few other reasons as well, but yeah, honestly, Zinchenko I'm happy to have third on my bench, or even second in this case. Is 8 players for game week 28 enough? As long as, look, I always say this with blank game weeks, it's not just about quantity, it's about the quality of players. If you've got Harry Kane, Ollie Watkins, you've got Saka, you've got maybe another Arsenal player or two, you've got all the key assets covered, I think that's fine, honestly. I'd even be happy with 8 or 9. With the wildcard, of course, you'd want to get up to 10 if possible, because, you know, it really strengthens the appeal of that chip, and also covering 27 and 29 as well, and the way all the fixtures have landed. But honestly, without a wildcard, 8 players is completely fine, as long as you have most of the key assets covered as well. Hi Dylan, are you bench boosting? No, I'm bench boosting in 29. So yeah, I was considering it, but I think 29 looks far stronger for me. Will Tony get suspended? No. He's got 8 yellow cards, so he avoided one in 26, which is what we were really looking out for. So even if he gets a yellow in the first game of 27, he won't miss the second game, because he has to get 10 yellow cards. He's 2 yellow cards away. He's fine for the time being. Who should I captain? It's completely up to you. I'm currently going for Mitoma. I think Tony would be the one backed by most people. I put a poll out. I think Tony has 55% of the votes. I might put it on screen as well. And also, in terms of the algorithm, Fantasy Football Hub and all these sites, they tend to back Ivan Toney to score more points. And also, he's been more consistent over the course of the season. But since the World Cup, I think Mitoma has been more impressive, and more double-digit returns, and also more hauls in general. Tony, I think, has returned 3 times since the World Cup, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 4. The rest are blanks and a lot of frustrating 1 or 2 pointers. I wouldn't bring in Gakpo, to be quite frank. Yes, he faces Bournemouth now, could do really well, double in 29, but if you aren't free hitting in 28, it just doesn't make sense to bring him in my opinion. Cost benefit of captaining Tony versus March. I think March has the high ceiling, and he also got a double-digit return against one of his opponents early in the season. It might have been Crystal Palace, if I'm not mistaken. As for Ivan Toney, he's more consistent, and it's a bit like the Saka versus Salah debate in Game Week 25. Saka's more consistent, but you've got the other one in Salah, in this case it's March, who's got the highest ceiling, and in one game he can get you a 12 or 13 pointer. However, from those two, I would rather go for Toney. I've got a good feeling about March, that's the thing, and that's why I've been talking about him a lot this week, and if he ends up outscoring everyone else, you know, that'd be quite funny. But honestly, who would I trust more? It'd be Ivan Toney, and that's why I would go for Ivan Toney as captain. But honestly, it could go either way. It's a close one, but I'd go for Toney. Bench boost, yeah. If you're not looking to bench boost in 29, you might be looking to use another chip there, then I'd probably bench boost now. Best captain this week, I think it's between Toney and Mitoma, and I'm currently going for Mitoma. That could change though. March or Mitoma? Mitoma, but I do like March a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised if he outscored everyone else in terms of double game week access this week. Yeah. Hey Dylan, planning to wildcard this game week? Any news we're waiting for in particular? Not necessarily. I wouldn't expect any confirmation of the game being called off of Brighton. I wouldn't really think about that. Really just early lineups for the Liverpool game, if that even affects your thinking, Aranya, in terms of Salah, who might be on your wildcard team. On a wildcard, I wouldn't go for 2 or 3 Liverpool players. If anything, I'd go for 1, as I talked about, in Salah, and then bring a second or third in 29. Best 4.6 million or lower defender to replace White from Brighton or Brentford. I'm going to wildcard in Game Week 28. I think Rico Henry, if I'm not mistaken, I think he does fit the bill there. So I'm going to double check this for you quickly, just to... Yeah, he's 4.5 million. I think Rico Henry would be the one for me. Pinnock is also decent, but I think Rico Henry is the better one of the two. There's not much to separate them, to be quite frank, but Rico Henry is someone who's got more consistent attacking threat for the assists and chances created. Yeah, I'd go for that. Do you think removing all Arsenal for 29 and not getting them back after is fine? Well, look, Arsenal are top of the league. They're doing really well this season, but the thing with Arsenal, as you say, is the fixtures turn very soon, and they have this period where they face City away, Liverpool away, Newcastle away, and you don't see a high ceiling. I still would probably have 1 Arsenal player, most likely in Saka, but I definitely would trim it down. I wouldn't have a triple up, and maybe a double up would be a bit too much as well. So yeah, I'd trim it down, but I think I'd have 1, especially with someone as consistent as Saka this season. McAllister March, I've got Mitoma already. I like McAllister a lot. I think he's a great player. But in FPL, I would actually back March a little bit more, especially in this double game week as well. Yeah, Wasting, I'll try to check that out very quickly. Let me just get your team up. Where is it? Oh, I think it's this one. Is it this one? Nope, it might not be. Oh, you put it here, yeah, in the same... Okay, so... Transfer plans, game week 27, Mahrez plus Bueno plus March plus Henry. To -4, okay, yeah, I get that. Andreas to Maddison, Mikalenko to Burn in 29, and bench boost. That looks like a really solid plan. I'm going to see if there's anything else that I would possibly do. Yeah, you're covering. What I like is obviously you're getting rid of the weaklings here. You know, all those players you're selling are people that I would have pointed out anyway. So that looks really good. Honestly, I think that looks fine. It looks really good. You could even take another -4 if you wish, and go from Haaland to Watkins in Game Week 28 because Haaland blanks. In 29, Haaland plays Liverpool, and Watkins has a double there, faces Bournemouth in 28. So that is another additional hit you may wish to take. It's completely up to you there. Yeah, I think the rest looks completely fine. Another thing to think about is around Game Week 30 onwards, you can start to trim down the Arsenal players we're saying, and also sell Ivan Toney. So also have an idea of the players you'd want to sell after all these doubles and blanks. But honestly, the plan looks solid. If it were me, I probably would take that -4 and go to Watkins. I think it's worth it because even if it doesn't pay off in 28, I think it does in 29. But that's just my personal opinion. All right, let's go back to the chat, and I'm probably really far behind, but yeah, we're trying our best. Start Almiron or Odegaard? I'd go for Odegaard. Free hit team in Game Week 28. That's a good one. I haven't covered it this week, so yeah, why not? We'll go here. Yeah, we'll do it from here. So it'd be very similar to this team, unfortunately. So you know, I'm sorry if it is disappointing. I'm going to try and make a few changes here, though. So I'm going to get rid of the Arsenal players. Actually, I'm going to go for Salah. I have him on the free hit without a shadow of a doubt. So we've got 6.4 million left in the bank, and honestly, we could just go for a bench option, really. Yeah. So 6.4 million or under midfielder. I mean, it doesn't really matter because they're going to be sitting on the bench. It could even be Andreas in this instance, but yeah, if you really want a cheap Brentford midfielder, by the way, or any Brentford midfielder, I think Jensen is the one, by the way. But I'd still rather go for Raya, a defender like me, or Rico Henry, and also Ivan Toney and Mbeumo. But Jensen is definitely worth considering. So I'm going to go for, I'm just going to go for a cheap option. It really doesn't matter. I'm just going to go for Andreas. He's going to be on the bench anyway. Yeah, Haaland, I would go for on the free hit, but on a wild card, I wouldn't. Yeah, Ivan Toney, Harry Kane. I think the front three is it speaks for itself, basically. Is there anything else I would change? So, yeah, we would be going for Trippier, me, and Estupinian. Yeah, I think this is pretty much what I'd go for. Literally, the only changes is bringing in Salah and Andreas for the Arsenal midfielders. But what you could also do is bring in Robertson or Trent or Zinchenko and then start him over Trippier if you wish, and then go for a 3-4-3. I definitely would go for Rashford this week, 100% on a free hit and on a wild card as well. He's cheap as well, considering the value he's offering. So yeah, this would be quite, this would basically be my free hit team. And yeah, to afford Trent, you might want Trent instead of Robertson. It's completely up to you. The reason why I'd probably go for Trent on the free hit is just because I know he's going to play pretty much. With Robertson, there is the chance that Tsimikas comes in. But yeah, I would go for something like this and then just go for a cheap goalkeeper like Forster. It really doesn't matter. He's going to be on the bench. So yeah, the free hit team, for any of you using the free hit, would be Raya in goal, Trent maybe / Trippier, and I'd go for Ben Mee and Estupinian as the back three, Salah, March, Mitoma, Rashford, and then the front three of Haaland, Harry Kane, and Ivan Toney. I think that looks really solid. And I've got 0.5 million left in the bank. Some of you might not be able to afford this. If that's the case, instead of Trent, go for Robertson and do a few other things like instead of Botman, go for a cheaper defender, stuff like that, really, because you don't need all of that money tied up on your bench if you're free hitting. But yeah, that looks like a really solid free hit team. I'd probably go for that. You might even argue McAllister over March, but I prefer March. I have a really good feeling about him this week, and that's why I'm considering him for the captaincy as well. If Odegaard was not a doubt, would you still favour Saka? Yeah, definitely. Start Saka or Martinelli? Saka. Start one: Maddison, Odegaard, Botman, and Gabriel. Obviously, Maddison and Odegaard have the highest ceiling of those four, but I'd go for Botman, I think. And that's why in my own team, using that own logic, I might even go for Botman over Zinchenko, to be quite frank. I think Fulham score, and I think Newcastle are more likely to keep a clean sheet. I might put Botman in, first on my bench, but no, I think I'll just do this second. Yeah, I think I'd go for the Newcastle defender over the Arsenal one, and they're the most likely to give you a return, basically. Newcastle haven't been, that consistent or convincing recently, but I think they keep a clean sheet against Wolves. Toney in for Haaland this week, and the problem for me is I've got Kane and Watkins who don't blank in 28. Yeah, Toney in for Haaland looks completely fine. And remember, Toney has a fixture in 28. The likes of Harry Kane and Watkins, they also don't blank. So if you're not free hitting in 28, that's actually an ideal transfer. That's why wildcarders in 26 and 27 like this plan of having these Brentford players like Tony, has a double and another one in 29 and also doesn't blank in 28. So yeah, that looks really standard. I'd go for it. Yeah, I mean, Salah will probably score today, but will Liverpool win? I think they will, but it wouldn't surprise me if they drop points because honestly, they've been awful on the road. Newcastle will keep a clean sheet. Yeah, but I'm not going to bench any of my starting 11 for Botman, to be quite frank with you. I've got like, 5 doublers, outfield doublers. I've got Raya and goal 2. I'm not benching Trippier for Botman. It's just kind of counterproductive. And I'm not going to bench Saka or Rashford, I think, either. Same goes for Haaland. So, yeah, I'm actually quite happy with this. I agree with you. I think Newcastle will keep a clean sheet. But then again, I'm quite happy with just the one this week. Joao Felix or Watkins, who to start? Good question. I think Chelsea have the better fixture from an offensive perspective, but yeah, Aston Villa are far better offensively. I'd go for Watkins still. It's quite a close one this week, though. Is Stupinian and March in for Odegaard and March for a -4, says Bestie? Wait, I'm not sure who the second midfielder is, by the way, because you're bringing in March for I'm not sure who. But I'm guessing it's Andreas or a budget midfielder. If that's the case, then yeah, I'd go for it as a -4. Just bear in mind, Odegaard is ideal for 28 as well. Would you start Trippier or Chilwell? Trippier. Is Navas a good option alongside Raya on the wildcard? I don't trust Forest defensively, but he's not a bad option. He's up there. I think he's someone to consider for sure, and he's not a bad choice. If you have a good feeling about it, I'd definitely recommend it. But in terms of bench boost goalkeepers, for me, the best are Raya and Kepa Arrizabalaga. Then you have a few others like Nick Pope as well, who are always up there. But yeah, he wouldn't be in my top 5, but he'd be, just after, I think. That's not a bad choice. I'm on wildcard, get Martinelli or McAllister to Odegaard or keep him. I mean, this week it's clear that I'd go for McAllister. You just have to think about Game Week 28 as well. You have to have that balance, Yazid, because on a wild card, you don't want to focus too much on just 27. You also want to think about 28 and 29, especially if you don't have a free hit or you want to use it later in the season. So, yeah, I'd go for McAllister, but just bear in mind you have enough players in Game Week 28 and the key assets, which is the most important thing too. Odegaard or Kane? Harry Kane, definitely. Despite Spurs' form, I see Harry Kane getting a good haul this week. Yeah, Bestie looks good. I'd do that, yeah. Yes, still it might seem obvious, but who would you start, Saka or Maddison? Saka. Yeah, and I agree with you. And also with Leicester, I know Maddison's a great player, but Leicester are so inconsistent. And even with Maddison on the pitch, I wouldn't be too confident. Is White and March going to start this week? Good question. White started the other day against Sporting, which is a bit of a concern. I think White starts against Fulham. There's also a thing about partnerships. Saliba plays better when he's got White next to him. When Saliba and Tomiyasu are together, there's a lot of uncertainty down that side, and I think partnerships is key. So I think White starts. As for March, the Zerbi said, I think on Friday or maybe on Thursday, I might be wrong about the date, but basically he said that March is fine, he's ready to play. The same goes for Stupinian and all these other players. So yeah, I think March will start. He'll definitely get one start in the double, that's for sure. And I think he'll start both. White or Robertson? This week, Robertson, without a shadow of a doubt. Who would I rather have on the wild card or something? It'd be White. It just depends on the context. Dylan, Cucurella for Botman to cover blank Game Week 28, a good idea. Yeah, Botman's just a far better option anyway. He's got a double in 29 too. Yeah, Botman I would get in for Cucurella. Is White and March going to start? We covered. Transfer in March for free for Odegaard. We'll have to bench Saka though. I'd probably still go for it, to be fair. Jared, as long as you have a good amount and also good quality of players in Game Week 28 too, if you're not free hitting there. Sanchez to steal. Yes, I only like that though as a short-term option, especially if you want a bench boost. If you're bench boosting this week, I'd go for it 100%. Otherwise, I'd be a bit skeptical. I'd rather go for Raya, of course, but my guess is that you've already got a triple up in Brentford as well. But yeah, if you're bench boosting this week, 100% go for it. Welcome to Bill. Emerson Real out for Borro or Davis or March out for McAllister. I think Emerson Real out for Borro or Davis, especially Borro, is very, how do I say it, sideways, and also it could backfire because Emerson Royale has probably been Spurs' best player in recent games, which sounds funny to say, and there's going to be rotation between him and Pedro Porro. I think Emerson Royale is still narrowly first choice, so selling him for Porro doesn't make sense. If you want a Spurs defender, I think you mentioned the right one, Davis, but don't do Emerson to Porro in my opinion. And we also haven't seen enough from either wing-back to really, back attacking returns. Davis is the one getting them in recent games. As for March out for McAllister, it's not worth it, I think. The only thing that I think McAllister has a big advantage over is the penalties, and also he's not an injured out, or how do I say this? Because March is cleared, by the way, by the manager, but he's not coming back from an injury, and there's not the possibility of McAllister being benched, whilst there possibly is with Solly March. But honestly, I'd keep March, and if you wanted to do a transfer, maybe Emerson out for Davis or another defender entirely, but honestly, I don't think it's worth it. You could even just roll the transfer. And I've one transfer left, or should I roll? I think you should just roll, honestly. If you've got a decent option on the bench as well, to come on for Emerson Royale if needed, I think that's the way to go. Thank you, Wade, saying we'll mark it down for what you said, but then in this case, when do you think I should play my wildcard? Yeah, you still got it in your back pocket, don't you? I mean, look, I'd either use it now, Wade, saying, or maybe... I'm not sure the exact game week because... I don't have a photographic memory of all the fixtures, memorized off by heart for every single instance, but maybe... So yeah, either Game Week 27 wildcard now, or you do it in Game Week 30, that period. I think that's the way to go. So you either decide to make the transfers from now until 29 and do everything that that you said, should I say, or you decide to then wildcard now and get all of that covered, and then you've got the flexibility in the future to make other moves as well to then get off the Arsenal players and also be well prepared for the fixture swings. But then again, either case, you've got that covered no matter what you do. How does Tony yellow card suspension work? Very simple. 10 yellow cards for a suspension now, and he's got 8. He needs 2 more yellows to be suspended. He's fine for Game Week 27. It's not a concern. Kane captain, no. I think he'll do well, but I'm not going to captain him over double game week players. And also from single game week options, I think Rashford's the best. Then it'd be Kane and then Salah. I think if Salah was at home, he would be top of the single game week options. But away from home, Liverpool are very suspect, and they're still a very inconsistent team this season. I know they've built a bit of form recently, but I wouldn't fully trust them just yet. So yeah, as for Harry Kane, you've seen Spurs recently, and Nottingham Forest, one big advantage of the Kane captaincy is that Forest have travelled very poorly to London, lost 4-0 to West Ham, 5-0 to Arsenal. I think Spurs will probably win 2-0, something like that, and Kane will be involved. I wouldn't captain him though. Single game player to put in the wildcard team, Rashford. I mean, that's just really basic, but Rashford is the only single game week player that would start this week and I'd have on the wildcard for sure, because even Saka, I'd be prepared to bench. You've also got Salah. Of course, he's a good option this week, but I think Rashford is just a far better option in general in terms of value and everything else considered. No, not really. Odegaard, he's ill, but I think he'll be fine for tomorrow. I'm normally, pessimistic when it comes to Arsenal and also when it comes to who's going to be available, but I think he'll be fine. Rashford or McAllister for Martinelli? I mean, long-term it's Rashford without a shadow of a doubt, but you can always get McAllister in now. Rashford blanks in 28 anyway, and then bring Rashford in for Game Week 29. But honestly, Rashford for me, yeah, I'd probably just go Rashford anyway. I went for sure over Trippier. Any good? I mean, he faces Southampton at home, but I'd go for Trippier personally, but I don't really mind that. And I think the main thing I like about what you just did is Shaw is way less owned than Trippier. And, if he gets a return, that will give you a good green arrow. Kepa and Tarkowski to Ryan Henry, -4. Yeah, it's worth it. I'm not a big fan of taking hits for goalkeepers, but Raya is marginally better than Kepa Arrizabalaga. Also an extra fixture on top of it. Yeah, I think that's fine. I definitely would do Tarkowski to Henry without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, that is very standard. You could save the Kepa transfer though, but I'd probably do it. Who is your opponent for the League Cup? Honestly, I don't know, and I don't really care. I honestly never pay attention to the league. By the time I find out I'm in it, I'm already out of the cups and stuff. So, went to wildcard. I don't know your team. It's very difficult for me to answer without knowing the context of your 50-man squad. But as I said to most people, I think either Game Week 27 or maybe between Game Week 30 and 33. If I had to earmark or bookmark, should I say, 2 game weeks, for most people, this might not be the case for you, Game Week 27 or 33, but it might be different for you. I'm going for Matoma, but it's really close between him and Tony. March would be 3rd on my list. Trying to spam the chat, by the way, because your question's just not going to be answered, and that just defeats the purpose of it. Matoma, that's it. I just lost the question, unfortunately. Let me try and get it up. Matoma, March, McAllister, best according to you on the wild card. Matoma first. Yeah, you got it in the right order, in my opinion. Matoma first, March second, McAllister third. In recent weeks, you'd probably favour McAllister over March, to be quite frank, but I still like March a little bit more. And because he blanked in Game Week 26, that might be a blessing in disguise for me, especially because I benched him. It puts people off buying March, and I think he actually might be the highest scoring one of the three, but Matoma's my favourite overall, and that's my answer. I wouldn't triple up, because I would want a Estupinian at the back line. I think he's a really good option for 27 and 29. So I'd rather go for Estupinian than McAllister, in my opinion. How wise is a triple up of Mitoma, March, and McAllister on the wild card? What are the pros and cons of doing that, given the upcoming blanks and doubles? Well, the obvious problem with it is that they all blank in 28, and if you've got three outfield players that blank for Brighton in 27, you've only got one free transfer to deal with it, but they also double in 29, so you'd want them for that double in 29, but you also don't want them in 28, because you might also have a Rashford and a few other players like that, maybe Salah as well, Aranya. So it is a bit of a tricky one in your situation, because it might be best for you to go for Steele in goal and then go for two Brighton outfield players instead. It makes it more manageable in Game Week 27. That was kind of one of the big concerns of, it's not a big one, like it's not absolutely, game breaking or anything or game changing, but, wildcarding in 26, the one big advantage of that, if I can even say that, is getting an extra free transfer to then navigate Game Week 28 and make sure you have that fully 11 out. But honestly, if you have 9 or 10 players in Game Week 28 Aranya and they're the key assets, I think that's fine. I'm going with your new wildcard this week, but don't have the funds to bring Saka in my wildcard. Is it good to bring Martinelli instead? Well, if you can't afford that team that I talked about, then yeah, I think Martinelli would be a great alternative, especially with Odegaard being a possible doubt for tomorrow. Anything else? I'm trying to think what else you could do to afford it. I think that is probably the best for you. Bear in mind with Steele, by the way, if you're looking to bench boost, well, I mean, if you're wildcarding now, you can't bench boost in 27 anyway, but you could in 29. Beyond Game Week 29, I'm not so sure about Steele in general, to be fair. But yeah, I think that looks good. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think Martinelli in for Saka is the best way for you to afford the team, and you've got some money in the bank as well. Give me a free hit team. We literally went over it, EG. I can put it on screen one more time, and I discussed the starting 11 already, so yeah, that is the best free hit team. Odegaard to March, or McAllister -4, or Bueno to Estupinian -4. What would I rather do? Bueno to Estupinian. The reasons why, Genius Gamer, is because Odegaard features in 28, a good fixture against Palace at home, whilst Bueno is injured, and yeah, I think that's a very simple move. Bueno is a bigger sell and priority than Odegaard, and despite March and McAllister arguably having a higher ceiling than Estupinian, I really like Estupinian's consistency in the last 8 game weeks or so. Yeah, Estupinian for me is the best transfer. Possibly Kaftan, and if I don't captain him, I might be hoping for it, because his effective ownership might be over 100%. No, it definitely will be, to be fair. And, any returns from him could actually damage me a little bit, depending on how high it ends up being. So, yeah, if I don't captain him, I wouldn't mind if he didn't do too well, basically. I hope he gets a goal, but nothing too major, basically. Haaland out on a wildcard? Yes. Check out my wildcard video, I cover it, but the front three on there would be Watkins, Erling Haaland, and Ivan Toney. Would you do Odegaard or Gakpo out for a Brighton mid? Honestly, I know Gakpo has the better fixture right now, but I'd rather go for or keeping Odegaard, benching him this week, and then obviously having him for Game Week 28. That's very, very helpful. With Gakpo, I think there are still better options in 29. Look, he could definitely become a great FPL option. I said it from when he joined, but I still wouldn't be too convinced just because, he scored twice against a very poor United side on the day. No chips played and planning to free hit in 29. Fair enough. Yeah, if you're planning to free in 29, honestly, it makes just complete sense to keep Odegaard, really. Is it worth to wildcard in 27, 28? No. With that situation, Pedro, no. The wildcard, you want to make at least 5 or 6 changes, at the very least, really. If it's just free, I'd rather just take a hit, or 2 even. Sell Sanchez, I don't think he starts in either game in 27, so yes, I would sell him. Ideally to Raya, but if you can't, then Steele will suffice for now. Haaland bench for March? I mean, I'd rather start March, yeah, but I wouldn't bench Haaland, to be quite frank. Is it necessary to have Liverpool assets in Game Week 27 wildcard? No. I even said it in that video, yes, Liverpool have shown a bit of consistency recently in the last 5 games. I think they've got 4 wins and a draw, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves, and you can still bring them in Game Week 29. You don't want to set yourself short for either 27 or 28. I know they face Bournemouth right now, but they're still very inconsistent on their travels. But I think the only Liverpool player I would have on the wild card, and even then you don't have to, it's Salah. I wouldn't go for Trent, Robertson, Gakpo or Darwin Nunez just yet. I'd bring them in Game Week 29, especially for a bench boost. I managed to get 4 starting after a free transfer in 28. Should I free hit or keep for a double game week? Managed to get 4 starting after a free transfer in Game Week 28. If you've only got 4 starting, by the way, and you've got so many blankers, Kaftan, I'd free hit for sure in 28. I think that would benefit you greatly. Game Week 29 wildcard views. I mean, I don't mind it. I'm looking to bench boost anyway, and I've already played my wildcard. So, yeah, I think 29 is best for the bench boost, from now until the end of the season. But honestly, yeah, if you've already used your bench boost or you want to use it another week, maybe wildcard in 29 and then bench boost in 34. I think maybe one disadvantage of something like that is there's such a big gap between your wildcard and bench boost. Ideally, it wouldn't be too much, maybe 2 or 3 weeks maximum. But yeah, I honestly don't mind it. I don't know your team, but it might make sense for you. Odegaard or Trippier, bench 1. You can see on screen. I'd bench Odegaard. Is there still any other double late in the season? Yes. Game Week 34 will be the other big one, and Game Week 37. You might have another one in between, like Brighton could have a double before Game Week 32 as well. I'm not sure exactly when, maybe 30 or 31, but yeah, there will be doubles. In terms of major ones, it's Game Week 34 and then 37 in terms of size. Start Odegaard or Mahrez? I would go for Odegaard. I'm not even sure if Mahrez starts at this point anyway. Captain Much, Tony McAllister, Matoma. In order, and I'm very conflicted about first place, so bear that in mind when you're listening to this. It'd be Matoma first, Tony second, Solly Much third, and McAllister fourth. But honestly, it could go either way between all of them, but especially the top 2. Best captain, we covered it just now with FPL Josh, so hopefully you got that. I'm hoping another Liverpool 7-0 or 9-0. I don't see that happening. Away from home, Liverpool, I'm not even sure what their goal difference is, but I'm sure they've only won 3 games all season away from home. I think Liverpool will be a force to be reckoned with next season, especially if they recruit well, but their midfield is still very poor, and defensively they are a bit suspect. So I wouldn't be too convinced about them being back just yet. No, not for me, Wei Seng. The Zerbi cleared him already. The only concern is if he starts both games, but I think he does, to be quite frank. Start Saka or Odegaard? Saka. Who to bench for McAllister, Watkins or Trippier? I mean, don't bench a double game week player. It goes without saying. I'd bench Watkins there. Anthony says, how's my wildcard team? Looks really good. I'm still not a huge fan of Chilwell, but he has returned recently in Champions League and Premier League. I'd rather have Kepa, basically, than Chilwell, especially if you're looking to bench boost in 29. But honestly, that's just a nitpick. It's a really solid wildcard squad. It's well thought out. And you've got 3 Brighton midfielders, which is different, by the way, and you've covered all bases there. If I'm being honest, I would rather have Estupiñán as part of your Brighton triple up, but that looks completely great. And it's a bit different, which is, it's quite rare to say now. And I think basically 2 of the things that I kind of pointed out to change, they're different. And that's also maybe it deserves a bit of, praise or credit. Yeah, I think it's a great squad. If you really want that triple up in Brighton midfield, go for it. But I'd rather go for Estupiñán instead of McAllister. Are there any changes to your team that you'd have made? Not really. I think the only one is Haaland, and instead of him, I'd have Salah in midfield, and then I'd have Watkins already. I think that's really the only changes I'd make. And it's basically Salah over Haaland. Who to bench between Maddison or Watkins? Probably Watkins this week, but it's a close one. Yeah, I think the main appeal of both of them is 28 and 29. March plus Estupiñán or Matoma plus Pinnock? Probably March and Estupiñán. I think Estupiñán is a significantly better option than Pinnock or any Brentford defender at the moment. Thank you, Ardash. I appreciate that very much. And as always, thank you for the shout out and always tuning in for the videos and streams. The same goes for all, viewers that just any video I put out, any stream, even if it's F1, and you're not even interested in Formula 1, you're always there. I appreciate that. Best captain we covered. For me, it's between Matoma and Tony. I'm currently going for Matoma. I wouldn't captain Salah. He's got a great record against Bournemouth, but I still wouldn't go for him. He's probably in the top 5, but I think double game week options like Matoma and Tony are better, not to mention Rashford. It's not an injury with Odegaard, it's illness. He should be fine for tomorrow. If he isn't, he should be fine for sure in Game Week 28, which is when you mainly want him, to be fair. Odegaard or Trippier, you can see on screen as well, basically, for some of these questions, but I'm going for Trippier. Odegaard's on the bench. Imagine less than Brighton game postponed. I would... Look, it just doesn't make sense to do that. Even the Zerbi, was very confident the game will go ahead, and it's just short notice for the fans. They're travelling, just to say it last minute. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. The Premier League can be like this, but it just doesn't make sense logically. March to Gakpo? Selling March to Gakpo? Surely not. Would I sell Gakpo to March this week? Yeah, I would. But I would not sell March this week. Definitely not. Saka or Nunez? This week, I'd probably rather start Nunez, actually. Hi, Dylan. Play Shaw, Zinchenko or Burn? I would play Shaw. Yeah, I think he would be first, Burn second, Zinchenko third. Yeah, we're saying he's got 8 yellow cards, 1 more, and then he's walking the tightrope, but it's not a concern for Game Week 27. It would be for Game Week 28. EG, you literally, you're asking for the best free hit team. It's on screen. Like, I don't know what else to say. It's literally on screen, and I talked about the starting 11. You could go for either Trent or Trippier. Raya will be the goalkeeper. Ben-Mi Estupiñán completes your back three. You go for the obvious midfield four. Andres is on the bench, and you go for the front three. I mean, I don't know what else to say. That is basically the free hit team. And it's not much different to my own team. The only difference really is Salah instead of Haaland. Thank you, Pedro. I appreciate it. Yeah, Surrender, we did answer your question, so hopefully you get it this time. I'd go for Martin Estupiñán. Is it worth keeping Wildcard till Game Week 30? It might be for your case. If you don't see any need to use it now, you're covering 27, 28, and 29 very well. Then yeah, you could just save it for 30 or 33 whenever it tickles your fancy. I don't know your team, so I can't tell you, exactly when would be the best time. It's very difficult for me to give you an answer that actually holds weight. But yeah, it might be worth it in your instance or in your case. Do you think that minorities have like 2 or 3 starting in Game Week 28? Without the wild card, I still had 7 or 8 players starting, Kaftan. So I think I would guess the majority of people would have 7 or more, if I'm being completely honest, because people would be bringing in Brentford assets now, which obviously, the main appeal of that is because you cover the next 3 game weeks very well. Watkins will be popular either this week or next week, but most importantly in Game Week 28. And a lot of people have a double or triple up in Arsenal and Newcastle. So I think most people would have 7 or more, in my opinion. Do you think Still was nailed for the next 5 weeks? For the next 5, I think so. Beyond that, I couldn't tell you. I think he starts both in 27, which is the main thing, and in 29. I mean, that is the next 4, because they blank in Game Week 28. But yeah, that's what you really want them for. Game Weeks 27 and 29. Jensen is the best Brentford midfielder. Okay, yeah. Bench 1, it would be Gabriel. Don't bench Gakpo against Bournemouth unless you're benching him for a double game week player or someone really good, like Rashford. Bench Watkins or Saka? I would bench Watkins. Is Odegaard playing? I think so, but I can't tell you for sure. It's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's a concern. He's just ill. Start Botman, White, Chilwell. Already have Trippier. I'd probably go for Botman, but who has the highest upside? It's Chilwell, definitely. But yeah, I probably would go for Botman. Bench order. Yeah, you can see it on screen as well. I originally had that in the same order you did, but I have changed it. So yeah, I've got the free hit team. I'm going to forget that now. We covered that already. So yeah, the one change I have made during the stream is Botman is now second on my bench instead of Zinchenko. I just backed Newcastle a bit more for the clean sheet, to be quite frank. Start 4, Saka, Salah, Martinelli. Was that March, Mitoma, Rashford? Yeah, I'm not sure if that's Martinelli or March. I'm guessing it's Martinelli. So yeah, I'd start Mitoma, Rashford, Salah, and the 4th one would be Saka. Yeah, so just bench 1 basically. Should I be worried with no wild card? Not really. I mean, if you're well set up and you don't see a need to use it, then you're fine, to be quite frank. Your top single game week option for this week and the next. For this week and next. It's a difficult one because a lot of people who look great this week, they blank next week, like Rashford and Salah. And, players that look great next week aren't that appealing this week. I'd say Watkins is up there. He's the first one that comes to mind for me, but he's also benchable in Game Week 27. White or Martinelli? I'd rather start Martinelli. Martinelli in for Mitoma in a wild card and have 10 players in Game Week 28, or keep Mitoma. honestly, if you're wildcarding, just have Matoma. You don't want to, you've got the points right in front of you potentially this week, and Martinelli's facing Fulham away, which is a very difficult fixture, in my opinion. You can always bring Martinelli in as a free transfer and have 10 players next week. You don't need to have a full 11 out, basically. You don't need to be that bogged down in terms of quantity. So honestly, have Matoma now and bring in Martinelli next week if you want, but it could also be for another player instead, because you'd want Matoma in 29. He's got a great set of fixtures there. Who should I start of Mings, Botman, Gabriel, or Bailey? I'd start Botman. Yeah. Why or Ake to start? I'd start Ake. Captain Matoma or Tony? I'm currently going for Matoma, but it's a close one. Ramsdale, White, Trippier, Shaw. Do I take a hit for Stupinian, Henry, or Raya? Yeah. And honestly, I know Shaw faces Southampton now and doubles in 29, but in order to navigate 28, I think the most sensible or the easiest kind of transfer for you is a Stupinian in for Shaw, and that's what I would do. But yeah, I think it's worth a hit. Start Trippier or White, I'd go for Trippier. March is not fully fit. Should I switch to McAllister? I mean, De Zerbi cleared him. Yes, he might be on the bench. There's the odd possibility of that, and that's why I'm not going to captain him, most likely, but I wouldn't be too concerned. I wouldn't switch to McAllister. I think even with one start and coming off the bench in the other game, I think he does well. Maybe even outscores McAllister. I wouldn't be too concerned. I'd keep March. I'd save the free transfer in that case, basically. Do you think I should play Gabriel even though Solomon is looking good? Well, I think Fulham score, to be quite frank with you. So it just depends who you're starting Gabriel over. That's the main question. Stupinian for Ake, Trent, or White for -4. I mean, they're all blanking, apart from White, obviously, but Ake and Trent are blanking in 28. I mean, I'd sell Ake, to be quite frank, and no double in 29 or in the near future. And City are still a bit suspect defensively. At least Arsenal have that fixture in 28, so that's why I'd rate White over Ake. Yeah, I'd sell Ake for a Stupinian SD. -4 point for Sanchez to do Odegaard to McAllister. Sanchez makes no sense because he literally just lost his place in Game Week 26 and Steele is being bigged up by De Zerbi. I think Steele starts both games, so don't go for Sanchez. If anything, go for Raya. If you can't, then go for Steele. Don't go for Sanchez. And honestly, Odegaard to McAllister. I mean, Odegaard's more expensive than McAllister, no? So you don't need to make the goalkeeper transfer. Honestly, just keep Pope and do Odegaard to McAllister. And you also want Pope in Game Week 28. Yeah, just do the second transfer if anything, but even then, I'd rather have Odegaard than McAllister, I think. Will a Liverpool 9-0 result later damage your rank? It's not happening. They're not winning 9-0 in my opinion, to be honest. I mean, I'm ready to say that right now. If if I get clipped or anything, fair enough. But I just don't see them winning 9-0 today away from home. Yes, they beat Bournemouth 9-0 early in the season, but yeah, they might win comprehensively, but not by 9. And no, honestly, I don't really care. Even last week, I know obviously if I had the Liverpool players still, I'd probably be in the top 40, 50k easily if I kept them. But even without the wildcard, I wouldn't have kept Nunez. I would have sold them probably for Watkins. And even Robertson was benchable that week. I think it was just a freak kind of result there. If United were to play Liverpool again in a few days' time, I know we're talking about Bournemouth here, but if all United, it's not going to be 7-0, that's for sure. Liverpool are scoring every single shot on target. Odegaard is ill. It's nothing too concerning. Start Haaland or Kane. I'd rather start Harry Kane, but don't bench either. Honestly, don't. Free hit, most likely in Game Week 32, but I'm open to 34 and 37. But I think Game Week 32 makes sense with my team. Good morning. Who to bench, Haaland or Almiron? Don't bench Haaland. It's as simple as that. I just wouldn't bench him. I don't think it makes sense there. Yeah, if you feel Almiron will be great, fair enough, and always back your gut, but just don't bench Haaland if you can, honestly. Why or Ake to start? Ake. Reverse my mistake, -4 Sanchez and me / Henry to Raya and Estupinian, Game Week 29 risk though, or just Sanchez to steal? I'd probably just do Sanchez to steal, Marco. Yeah. Because either way, that -4 could backfire and it might not even pay off that -4 because they're just quite similar. Yeah, no worries, Keenan. Yeah, Sanchez to Pope looks fine. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, okay, fair enough. That makes complete sense. So yeah, that. I probably would do that in that instance, but I don't think Odegaard to McAllister is like if I didn't wildcard, I'm not sure if I would do that. I probably would just keep Odegaard in time for Game Week 28 and just bench him now. But it's a fine transfer plan. It's sensible. I think it pays off this week. You just have to balance it out with Game Week 28, and you can always bring Odegaard back in for McAllister. But yeah, I think that's fine as a -4. Yeah, I mean, what he's saying, even when Chelsea were, losing and drawing games, they were still keeping some clean sheets or just conceding a goal or two, which is, not that bad. Defensively, it wasn't the issue. The problem with Chelsea is creating chances, scoring enough goals, and controlling games in the midfield. That is the big issue with Chelsea. But defensively, I don't think Chelsea have been that bad. Hi, Sanchez to Raya or roll the transfer? I would do the transfer, to be fair. It should pay off. I don't see Sanchez even getting a start, to be quite frank. Yeah, good luck. I mean, I'd like to see McAllister do well, but FPL-wise, I still don't fully trust him. His underlying numbers, though, have been very good. Will Chelsea win today's game? I mean, Leicester are poor. Yeah, I think Chelsea win. I don't see Chelsea losing. It's either a draw or a win. I don't see it being a high-scoring game. It might be, the scorelines that come to mind basically are 1-1, 1-0. Yeah, I think Chelsea edge it, I think, yeah. Can I captain Matoma Tony? Of course you can. It's up to you if you go ahead with it. I'm going for it myself. Let's wait and see how it goes. De Bruyne to Salah? Yes, I think that is fairly sensible. They both blank in 28, but Salah's a far better... there's no comparison between the two right now. Yeah, I think Odegaard starts, yeah. What are your thoughts on Pinnock for Tarkovsky? Looks fine. But as I said earlier in the week, yeah, Pinnock scored in game at 26, but don't let that be the reason why you're going for him. It could easily be Ben Mee or Rico Henry getting the attack and returns in game at 27. So, yeah, just be careful with that. Watkins to Tony or roll the transfer? I mean, I liked the Watkins a lot for 28 and 29. I would get Tony in, but preferably for another striker. Honestly, Anthony, if you're also not freeing in 28, it might sound really weird to say, but I'd rather sell Haaland than Watkins this week, even though Haaland is the better option in 27. I mean, unless you've got 2 free transfers and you have that kind of security in the bank, you've got that extra free transfer to, get rid of Watkins now, bring him back in at 28, keep Haaland for 27, and then sell him in 28. So it just depends, but I would get Tony in, but try to have Watkins for game at 28 as well. Wilson Sanchez, I don't think he starts, as simple as that. He might reclaim his place at some point, but I don't see it being in 27. Look, there is a chance, of course. No one expected him to be benched in the first place, but I don't think he starts in 27. Steele is a real steal at the moment, yeah. He is still a bit of a shaky goalkeeper, but whenever I've seen him this season, he's been decent. I can't say the same about the years gone by, though. That's a difficult one. I mean, look, from single game week options, Salah's up there, obviously, but I'd still rather go for Rashford myself. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's a close one. I actually would maybe go for Salah over McAllister, but it's a really close call. Yeah. If Salah was at home, I probably would go for him over McAllister, but no doubts about it, basically. Kane or Salah? For this week, Kane. I mean, look, for the next 2 game weeks, Harry Kane for sure, but I think from 29 onwards, it's Salah. Tony or Matoma? You can see my answer on screen, basically. Triple captain Tony? I don't think so. No. I think there will be a better option later in the season, I think. Yeah. I mean, look, it's not a bad choice, but I don't know. If I had a triple captaincy still, I don't think I'd use it on Tony, or I wouldn't be confident of a big return. Let's wait and see. I could be completely wrong, but I'm not sure about that. Super unfortunate that Chilwell got 0 attack and returns in UCL Fantasy. Sterling trolled, and I don't know why the penalty retake ruled out Chilwell assist. Yeah, I mean, look, I've got my own opinions about the penalty itself. I mean, the retake is understandable. I just think they're very inconsistent about encroachment, and, sometimes it happens and they never even, pick up on it with VAR. I think the penalty itself was very harsh. I don't think it was a penalty, but yeah, I mean, Chilwell getting 0 attack and returns, you could argue, is even harsher. I mean, yeah, it was a bit strange to see that. Bench boost, I prefer in 29, but for some people it makes sense in 27, especially if you have Steele in goal alongside Raya and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd rather do it in 29. Keep Odegaard or transfer to a second Brighton midfielder? I mean, it's a tough one because I would bench Odegaard anyway this week, but I like him a lot in 28. I probably would keep Odegaard if you can, if you're not freeing in 28, and you've also got most of the key assets covered this week anyway. Yes, you can, Harif, but it will be difficult. There's no doubt about it, and I think it's very competitive. From where you are to the top 10k, but it's possible. I think it's only 50. I think I'm only 50, 60 points away, so maybe you're 70, 80 away or something like that. It's doable. There's still so many doubles and blanks to come. You could see a huge swing this week, so good luck. Hopefully you do get it. Yeah, I agree. UCL Fantasy is probably my favorite. Maybe it's helped by the fact that I always do well, or so far I've always done well in it, but I don't know. It feels a bit more refreshing. You know, the template isn't that strong. You know, in FPL, most people have an identical team, and you know, I think yeah, I think UCL Fantasy is a bit more interesting. It's a bit more open-minded and unique. Yeah, I mean, with Odegaard, I think he could do well tomorrow if he starts, but I like him a lot for game at 28. Ultimately, I will sell him, I think, in game at 29. I think Havertz could be a possible punt for 29. Yeah. I'll be honest, I still don't like him. You know, I know he played well the other day against Dortmund, but I don't rate him as a player or as an FPL asset. But I think in recent weeks or since the World Cup, he's had a few of these hauls in him in, you know, Champions League and the Premier League. So, yeah, it's not a bad punt. But honestly, when you've got Darwin Nunez even, but most importantly, Watkins, even Haaland is still obviously always an option. Harry Kane, Ivan Toney. Yeah, he's just not really on the list of priorities. Bruno or Maddison in game at 29? Bruno. Maddison has the better fixtures, but Bruno for me. Thank you, Wasting. I appreciate you moderating the chat to keep it bearable there. What would a wildcard team look like this week if he had Steele? It's literally my wildcard video, Rania. I've got Steele in that draft. It'd basically be that. Instead of Haaland, you've got Watkins, you've got Salah in the midfield instead of... who have we gone for? I think it was maybe for March, and then yeah, we then opened up the space for Steele instead of Kepa. Very standard stuff. It's literally all covered in that video. If you could also add a chip to FPL, what would it be? That's actually a really popular question I've gotten many times in FPL, quite sporadically, but what chip would I add? I mean, from UCL Fantasy, what I like is the Limitless chip. I really like that chip. It's even in F1 Fantasy now. Yeah, I would like to see that. Another one would possibly be something a bit different, like changing the formation. So being able to go all-out attack. I think that was a chip before in FPL. I would like to see that back in the game. It just makes it a bit more interesting. And yeah, you might not get many points from it because, you know, it's not always that simple in FPL, but it'd be fun. It'd be fun. It'd be quite refreshing, different, and you don't necessarily need to adhere to a certain strategy, or you don't need to follow the crowd, and you can just basically play it whenever. The same goes for the Limitless, you know. You could just play the Limitless whenever the team has, you know, your 50-man squad or 11, starting 11 has a really good set of fixtures. So yeah, I'd like to see those types of chips, all-out attack and Limitless. Hi Dylan, best 5.2 million or under defender to bench this week on a wild card. It's probably Zinchenko or an Arsenal defender. Bench him this week, start in 28, and then you can sell in 29 for a Luke Shaw or someone like that. Will you take a hit on game at 29? Possibly. It's not set in stone. I don't need to take a hit, basically. I could even stick with 10 players in game at 28, not make 2 free transfers, and then have that in store for 29. But, you know, I think maximum I'll take a -4 hit. Good question. I think it'll be, you know, Palace have been a bit of a kryptonite for Man City in recent years, but I think City win narrowly, either 2 or 3-1. Yeah. Chilwell and Maddison or Chilwell and Cher? Well, to start this week, it'd be Chilwell and Maddison. Well, no. If it's this week, it's Chilwell and Cher, sorry. If it's, you know, for the next 2-3 game weeks overall, it'd be Chilwell and Maddison. But this week, I wouldn't want that clash, basically. Mings to Brentford defender? Yeah. And I'd go for me personally, but, you know, I think the others are fine. Yeah, the football club, we answered that already. Yeah, I think Enzo played relatively well, but I still don't like him being at Chelsea, to be quite frank. I don't think Chelsea are getting the best out of him, and also he needs to be playing further forward in general. And if you have a Kante or even a Jorginho next to him, I think you can get the best out of Enzo Fernandez, and you know you just have to wait for Kante to be back, unfortunately. I think a midfield three of Kante, Kovacic and Enzo could actually be very good, but you have to wait until they all fit. If you were freeing, what would you go? All 3 Brian mids? No, I'd go for Stupinian still, and I'd go for March and Mitoma. And that also answers Yash Shaman's question. I wouldn't go for McAllister over the other 2. Yeah, I think Salah scores, but is it enough to captain him? I'm not sure. No need for caps, but yeah, I'll try to answer the question. Salah, Nonto to March and Tony. I mean, if I had Salah, I wouldn't sell him this week. Let me put it that way. But yeah, I think March and Tony outscore the other duo. So yeah, ultimately it's worth it, but try to find another way to make those moves if you can. Is Haaland to Tony a bad move? I don't think so. I think Haaland does well this week, but he's sellable in 28 anyway. Is there any chance of the Brighton Leeds game? I mean, there's a minimal chance. I don't think it will, personally, but let's wait and see. I could be wrong, but I don't think it does. Trippier or Gabriel? Trippier. All right, so let me show you a few questions since we've been answering questions for the past hour or so. Trent or White? It's definitely Trent. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, let's go now to some other screens. In terms of the fixture ticker, Brentford are still top. You've even got Leicester there in second place. Leeds, Villa, Newcastle complete the top five, and you've got a few others there like Chelsea, Man United as well, near the top five. And United and Brighton, by the way, have a blank, but they're still in the top half of the fixture ticker. Those at the bottom include Man City. They're literally just right there at the bottom. Fulham, Liverpool, Everton, Wolves, and even Arsenal are down there as well. But yeah, blanks do play a big part in that too. In terms of predicted points, this might help you with your captaincy questions. Ivan Toney is top, and by quite a margin as well. Harry Kane is there second place, despite only having one game against Nottingham Forest. He's there at 9.9, and yeah, I would agree with that in terms of Harry Kane would be right up there in terms of single gamic options. I would still probably rather go for Rashford, but Harry Kane is definitely quite close. You've got March, McAllister, and Mitoma. So the Fantasy Football Hub algorithm has put March first, McAllister second, and Mitoma third, which is pretty much the complete opposite of my ranking. I would put Mitoma first, March second, McAllister third, but it's not a bad ranking anyway. And Mbumo's there, Salah, Rashford, Veltman, and Che Adams. We haven't talked about Southampton or Crystal Palace assets pretty much all week. If you were to go for any, from Southampton, it's Ward-Prowse or nothing. And from Crystal Palace, it's probably a defender like Anderson and then maybe Zaha, who's come back just now. But honestly, yeah, I'd really just want Zaha if you're free hitting this week, potentially. Other than that, I don't think it's worth going for these Palace or Southampton assets. In terms of the prices, let me refresh this, see if there's any changes. Yeah, Mitoma's going to go up in price, let's put it that way. He's the most transferred in play this week by some margin as well. I think over 500,000 managers have brought him in Game Week 27. Ivan Toney second, who's about to go up in price. Tony, me, March, Raya, Henry, Martinelli, Van Dijk. They should all go up eventually, but Mitoma and Tony, they have to go up eventually today or tomorrow. In terms of those going down, you've got quite a lot. Almiron, De Bruyne, Mahrez, Cher. All of these have been fairly popular options this season, even Saliba as well. And then, yeah, anyone else? Nick Pope as well. Quite interesting there too. But yeah, that is all covered. And this might be of interest to you too. Mitoma versus March, a comparison of their seasons. Statistically, March is superior. It's quite simple. He's got some very good underlying numbers, Solly March. And actually, he's got the same XG as McAllister, 7.02 over the course of the season. Now, maybe one fairer way of comparing these two is since the World Cup, when Mitoma has been a consistent starter for Brighton. So since Game Week 17, it is a bit different. Mitoma is better in some metrics, in particular in terms of XG and big chances, but March is still, in general, the statistically superior option of the two, and his creativity numbers are very underrated and impressive as well. But it's a bit closer when we look at the last, 10 game weeks. But yeah, if you're looking at the course of the season, March has been very consistent. And in terms of underlying numbers, or in terms of goal output, should I say, it's close. They've got the exact same goals and assists in the last 9 games. It just goes to show it's a very difficult choice this week, and it could go either way in Game Week 27. I've got a really good feeling about March if he starts both games, but Mitoma is the most exciting player and the one that I'd probably just want to captain the most anyway in Game Week 27. But yeah, let me know, who would you go for in terms of Brighton midfielders? March, McAllister, or Mitoma? Thank you, Islam. I appreciate that very much, mate. What's the deal with Perod? Why didn't he play the last game? I'll bring you an update here using Premier Injuries. So be sure to check that out, by the way. It's a really good source. They basically cover every single press conference and what the managers say. But yeah, I don't think Perod, he's not an injury or anything. So yeah, in terms of Perod anyway, don't go for him. I would sell him if you have him, but he's not an injury doubt at the moment. The only ones for Southampton are Alcaraz and Livramento, who's been out for quite a while, and Larios. So yeah, he is not an injury doubt, but yeah, he's just not worth having anyway, even in a double game week. Salah or Brentford midfielder, and which one? And this week, Salah. If it were a Brentford midfielder, sorry, it'd be Jensen. But honestly, it's Salah. Yeah, Andy, we have covered this already. But yeah, just to kind of list it off the top of my head, I think I can remember. It'd be Raya in goal. In defence, it's either Trent or Trippier, and I'd go for Trippier personally. And Robertson would be the other one, of course, but I'd go for Trippier. Ben Mee and Estupinian back free. In the midfield, I would go for Salah, Rashford, Mitoma, and Solly March. And the front three would be Haaland, Harry Kane, and Tony. The rest would be just bench options. You could go for Botman or someone even cheaper. Andres Pereira and Steele, well, not even Steele, it'd be Forster in goal. Yeah, very standard stuff. Bruno Fernandes captain this week. I mean, it's not a bad shout against Southampton, but not for me. I'd rather go for Rashford from the same team. And also, yeah, it's not a bad shout. Let me just say that. It's very different as well. I like that, but yeah, he wouldn't be in my priorities, basically. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. And also to all the subscribers and patrons and everyone else, the channel members. Captain Jensen this week deserved the risk. I mean, it's different. I like it. He's been in good form. He got a 10-pointer recently, and just 3 or 4 game weeks ago, another double-digit return. So it can definitely pay off. But would I captain him over Tony? No. But it's not a bad shout. It honestly isn't. It's worth considering. Should I go for Tony, or will there be any news? I just go for Tony, honestly. We've discussed this at length, not just in the last week or two, but also many months ago. You know, we've had no real updates, you know, in terms of the hearings and stuff. There might be a hearing around April. And then after that hearing has happened, then a punishment can be issued out. But until then, just don't be worried about it. In terms of yellow card suspension risk, he still needs 2 more to be suspended. He's completely fine. Just go for him. Who to start, Shaw or Trippier? I'd still go for Trippier, but Shaw's fine. Zaha on free hit, potentially, but I'd rather go for the double up in Brighton midfield, Rashford and also Salah. It's not a bad option, though. Like I said, if I were to go for any Palace player, apart from Anderson maybe, I think Zaha's probably the pick of the bunch. Sell Odegaard to March? Yes, but I'd try to get Odegaard back in 28 potentially. I mean, you have to balance it out in terms of how your team is looking like for the blank as well. Yeah, it's possible, but even in 70, 80 minutes, I think Rashford does damage. And honestly, I think Rashford plays over 80, which is fine. Do you think Liverpool will keep a clean sheet? I think they might concede a goal. But if I had to... I think they concede. I mean, look, I might be wrong, but I think they concede, but they score maybe 3 or 4. I mean, look, let's wait and see what happens. If it's like a huge scoreline again, then that'll be funny. But yeah, I think possibly. Yeah, I'll go for it. I think they concede 1. Best upcoming game week to wildcard. I mean, for me, if I haven't wildcarded already, it'd be now or in game week 33 potentially. Look, it just depends on your team. It might be best for you to wildcard in 30, for example, which is also what a lot of people in the chat have been talking about. Odegaard to Matoma. I'm currently in the overall cup round of 4,096. Yeah, I think it's fairly standard. I'd do that transfer. We covered that, Jernich. Pinnock for Tarkowski from -4. That's the only Brentford transfer I can get in. Once again, Hill, I think I answered this already. You don't need to go for Pinnock just because you got a return last week. It could easily be Ben Mee or Rico Henry this week. But yeah, I think a Brentford player is fine. If that's the only one you can afford, it's fine. It should do the job. 2 goalkeepers for bench boost, Raya and Steele. Simple as that. If you're bench boosting this week, it'd be that too. If you're looking to bench boost in 29, it'd be Raya and Kepa Arrizabalaga. -4 to bring Raya, Stupinian, or me and McAllister / March. It'd be Raya. It's a close one, actually. It would be Raya and Stupinian, though, I think. Buy Brighton players, then have 8, 9, and 29. Yeah, looks fine. As long as you have most of the key assets in 28 and... was that 8 and 9 doublers in 29? Yeah, that's still good. It's still good, yeah. Just bear in mind, a lot of wildcarders will probably have, 11 plus. In my case, I could have up to 13, but... as long as you have the key assets, it's not really a big deal. Would you not consider McAllister? But it makes no sense in my team to sell March, for example, to McAllister. And I actually have a good feeling about March. If he starts both games, I think he outscores McAllister. Yes, he's been in a really advanced role in the last 3 or 4 games, but I think a lot of his returns depend a lot on penalties, and his creativity numbers are actually well short of Solly March and even Matoma in recent weeks. So honestly, I don't really see a big appeal of that. I'm not sure. I don't pay attention to Super a second chance. I've done well. It's probably a decent rank, but yeah, I'll double check that in a little bit too. But we'll go back to my team, and some of your questions will be answered in terms of captaincy and also bench order. So just look at my team. If you are, you might have something that's identical to my own kind of team selection issues, and the answer might be on screen already. Good to see you, Jay. Shaw or Trippier to start? We've already answered it. I'd go for Trippier. Start 2, I would go for Trippier and White. Start Rashford or Foden. Foden's been terrific recently, but it's Rashford. Don't bench Rashford anyway. Who should I bench between Saka and Martinelli? I'd bench Martinelli. Captain Matoma, March or Tony. You can see on screen. And in terms of second place, yeah, Tony will be second, March 3rd. It's all there. Mahrez or Odegaard? I mean, is Mahrez going to start? I'd probably go for Odegaard. Welcome, FPL Clue. Captain Matoma, Tony. Once again, I mean, it's a close one. I'm still tempted by Tony, but I'm currently going for Matoma. Hi, Estupinian for Bueno, -4 instead of starting White, Shaw, and Trippier. Is it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. Yeah, I'd go for it. And you also solve an issue that you have in not just in the future because Bueno's out for the next few weeks as well. Yeah, and Estupinian doubles in 29. So yeah, it looks good. I want to start Martinelli over Saka. I mean, that's fair. If you want to start him, then go for it. Start Rashford or Foden. We've answered. What is second chance? Since the World Cup, they have introduced a league to possibly keep people engaged where it's just a league that starts from Game Week 17. Hello, Dylan. Tell us your opinion on Zaha. I wouldn't mind him on a free hit, but would I buy him with a normal transfer? No. It's as simple as that. So on a free hit, I'd consider him and even possibly include him. I wouldn't buy him with a normal transfer. He's just a big troll. Captain Estupinian, he's the only defender I would possibly captain this week, but I still think there are 4 or 5 that are better in terms of the midfield and attack. Someone coerced me into getting McAllister. Could I get March in last minute? Look, I did say in my team, for example, it's not worth selling March or Matoma to McAllister, but it also goes both ways. If you have McAllister, he is on penalties, and he also, in the last 3 or 4 games, he's been in a really advanced role. In terms of underlying numbers, I think Matoma and March have been better, especially in the last few game weeks, since the World Cup. But honestly, I don't think it's worth it. Stick with what you have, I think, is the best case. It's all covered in the recent videos and streams. So in Game Week 28, I'm looking to bring in Watkins for Haaland, possibly make another transfer in the midfield. In 29, bring in either Bruno or Salah, and then it would be either Shaw or another defender. It's all kind of flexible, but I've got a rough idea, and it will just all depend on what happens in the next few weeks. But I've got a clear idea of what I want to do, but I'm also open-minded. Take White out for Estupinian for a -4. I think it pays off this week, but also in Game Week 28, you have to bear that in mind, and White is a good option there. What about Perisic? He's just not worth it. He got subbed off at, 52 minutes against AC Milan in the Champions League. He's not even starting week in, week out. I know he started the last 3 games, but before then, constantly in and out of the team. I just don't like him as an option. If you want a Spurs defender, go for Davis, and that's it. No transfers. Elliott, a good option? Not for me. If you want Liverpool players, I mean, it would be Salah first, Liverpool fullback in second place, and then it'd probably be Darwin Nunez third, Gakpo fourth. I don't think so. If he starts showing some consistency in terms of attacking returns, then fair enough, he could be an option. But right now, I wouldn't go for it. Start Zinchenko or Martinelli? Martinelli. Start Zinchenko or Chilwell? It would be Chilwell. Ferguson or Mbuma as a differential? Mbuma. Captain Matoma or March or Tony? You can see the answer on screen. Start 3 between Estupinian, me, Trippier, White, and Botman. I mean, you're not going to bench double gaming players. It makes no sense. So Estupinian, me, and Trippier would be very simple. Trent or Henry on the free hit? Henry. Will Haaland play 90? Once again, I think he plays enough to get the returns, so 70 plus, and I think he plays the 90, yeah. Are you bench boosting today? No. I'm bench boosting in 29. Short to Rico Henry? Yeah, I think that looks fair, yeah. Leeds versus Brighton? I mean, I see no reason why it'd be called off now. They had all of yesterday to do it. Yeah, I think it's fine, honestly. Start Davis or Zinchenko? Davis, yeah, Davis. Looks like Shaw's starting to show tiredness. Yeah, he's been awful in the last 2 games. And United have, to be fair, not just the last 2 games. They've leaked chances against West Ham. I said it back then. They conceded chances to Leicester. They should have been 1 or 2-0 down before they ultimately went on to win the game comprehensively. The signs have been there for quite a while, but yeah, I mean, who do they have? Malacia maybe to come in, but United need more squad depth and quality in certain positions. Yes, Adam. Once again, if you're bench boosting in 27, I'd go for Steele. Steele and Raya. If you're bench boosting in 29, I'd go for Raya and Kepa. So that looks fairly good, yeah. Buy Jensen and 9 players in 28 or Matoma and 8. I'd still rather go for Matoma. But Jensen's fine. If I had to go for any Brentford midfielder, it's him. He's not a bad choice. I just think Matoma is significantly better. Once again, Mahmoud, the answer is literally on screen. I would go for Odegaard, each him. Bench order for Zinchenko, Chilwell, or Watkins? Good question. I'd put Zinchenko last there. I think it'd be Watkins first, Chilwell second, Zinchenko third. Keep Watkins or buy Tony? I'd buy Tony, but try to get Watkins in for Gimmick 28 and 29. Yeah, and Mbeumo's fairly decent. It's kind of feast or famine with him. He can give you a 12-pointer, then give you 2-pointers for the next 3 or 4 game weeks, but he has that big haul in him. Start 2, it would be Rashford and Saka. Who would you keep, Martinelli or Odegaard? I mean, if you're looking at the last few game weeks, Martinelli's the more exciting option, the more consistent, but Odegaard for me has been very good for the course of the season. He had that really good spell in December and January. Yeah, I still prefer Odegaard a little bit more, but honestly, if you look at the underlying numbers and a few other things, I mean, Martinelli is kind of the informed one. And in terms of ownership, something I'm crying. In terms of ownership, I think Odegaard is also a bit higher, which, I mean, it's basically identical anyway. But yeah, I think it's literally 50-50. I'll see if I can get the Liverpool lineup then, if it is leaked. So just bear with me for a second. Let's see if I can get it here. Hopefully no dumb videos or something, but I'm not sure about that. Might be the Spion Cop this time or someone like that. Whatever the name is. Liverpool lineup. Yeah, if you've got a link, by the way, then put it in the live chat and I can put it on the screen too. But yeah, let's see. Liverpool lineup. Is there anything here? I'm checking Twitter right now. Yeah, I haven't seen anything yet, but it sometimes takes me quite a while to get these up. Start Watkins or Martinelli. I'd go for Martinelli. Very close, though. Out of these 4, one must be bench, says Nicola. Yeah, which 4? I haven't seen. Maybe I'll see it later. March or Salah? Well, this week, March. I mean, who would I rather have long term? Of course, Salah. But for this week, I'd slightly favour March. Ben White, season holder. I think White starts basically all the games in the Premier League left. There might be the odd game where he's benched, but like I said, it's not just about Tomiyasu making mistakes. There's a few other factors that come into play. Tomiyasu looked really good the other day, actually, but playing as a left-back. He came on for Zinchenko, and he played really well there as an inverted left-back. And also the partnerships. Saliba and White work really well together. When it's Saliba and Tomiyasu, it's just chaos. So, yeah, I think Ben White is a season keeper potentially. Thank you for Super Chat, Aaron. As always, very, very generous. Play Shaw or Robertson. I think Shaw is a bit more likely to keep a clean sheet, but Robertson has the high ceiling. I know it sounds counterproductive. I'm going to give you a straight answer because, you know, what's the point of asking otherwise? If I had to favour one this week, I think it would be Robertson. I'd go for the upside. But I just think Liverpool are a bit more likely to concede against Bournemouth than United are against Southampton. Captain Haaland or Kane? It'd be Kane this week. Haaland did score a hat-trick in 20 minutes against Palace the last time these two teams met. Palace haven't won a game in 2023, but City historically struggle against Crystal Palace home and away. Harry Kane is facing Forest, who have been really awful on their travels in London. And also in general, this season, I think I'm not sure where exactly, but maybe the bottom 3 in terms of away. I'd go for Haaland. I'd go for Kane there over Haaland, and probably Robertson for the upside over Shaw. Which Brentford midfielder would you go for? Jensen. Start 2, Rashford, Saka, Foden. It would be Rashford and possibly Foden, actually. Estupinian or Veltman or Dunk? Estupinian, easily. March or Saka? This week, March. Why Matoma ahead of Tony? I think Matoma's been more consistent since the World Cup. If you look at Tony since the World Cup, very fortuitous penalty against Bournemouth to get a 9-pointer. The goal against Arsenal shouldn't have stood. And then you look at the others. He got a 9-pointer the other day. But I just don't think his overall performances and maybe the underlying numbers have really impressed me compared to Matoma, who's the more exciting player of the two. And Matoma's fixtures are better. It's as simple as that as well. Look, it can backfire either way. It's a close call. I think Tony's the safer pick. I'll be real. He's the safer, more consistent pick over the course of the season. But if I'm looking since the World Cup, when Matoma's been in the team, I think he's been the better option. And he's also a midfielder, which plays a part. I think so. Let's wait and see. Start White, Ake or Trippier. Trippier. Very simple. Start 2. I answered it. I'd go for Rashford and Foden. Henry, Trippier or Trent. Bench 1. I would bench... probably Trent from those 3. Help Captain Salah, Kane, March or Haaland. From those 4, it would either be March or Kane. Yeah. Best wildcard team for this game week is I've put a video out. I put a dedicated video out. Nothing's changed from that. So yeah, if you want to check that out. And the one from last week is still applicable. So literally you can... I kind of covered 2 teams basically in that video regardless. So I talk about what I did in 26 and also 27. Is Maddison playing good recently? Well, he's been injured, and he's kind of been in and out of the side as a result. He's been ill and injured. But yeah, before that, he was playing well, even against United when they lost 3-0. He had a fairly decent performance, and before then, he was doing really well. So yeah, Maddison, basically, if he can stay fit, he's a really good option in general, and I want him potentially for Game Week 28 and 29. But yeah, I wouldn't want him now. No, Kaftan, I haven't seen any Liverpool news. What do you think about Captain McAllister? I mean, it's not a bad choice. I think a Brighton midfielder is fairly sensible this week. Great fixtures. All the Brighton midfielders are looking very promising, especially McAllister, Matoma, and March. But I do have other preferences. Start Shaw, Saka. I think I'd still go for Saka. Zinchenko or Henry on a wild card? On a wild card, Henry. I think he just covers so many boxes. Yeah, Henry would be the one. Captain Tony or March? It would be probably Tony out of those 2. Once again, go G. I've got a video up on the channel and I've covered it already quite extensively in the last few weeks. Is Stupinian in for Emerson, Tony in for Haaland or Kane? Yeah, I'd do both, and it would be Tony in for Haaland, and I'd keep Kane. Would you bench boost with Kepa, Zinchenko, Cho and Watkins? It's a good bench, but I feel you have a better bench in 29. Especially with 1 or 2 transfers, like Zinchenko out for sure. Between March and Matoma, you can see on screen, for a lot of these questions, Matoma would be the answer. White, Ake, or take a -4 for Stupinian? I'd personally take a -4 for Stupinian. I don't like Ake long term. Who should I play, Zaha or Saka? Well, Zaha's the double, so I would probably go for him, but Saka's a far better option in general. Captain Tony Matoma, once again, you can literally see on screen. Out of those 3, I would probably captain Kane. Yeah, it's between him and March, and it's really close. But yeah, Haaland would be last there, which sounds crazy. But -4 for March, is it worth it? Depends who you sell. Start Mitrovic or Gabriel. It's a close one. It could go either way. I'd probably favour Gabriel. I actually don't know. I haven't really checked my leagues. Yeah, I'm checking now. I'm 279th around there, yeah. Not great, but not too bad either. I think there's a few thousand people in there, which is good. Are you using bench boost? No, I'm using in 29. Yeah, that one we covered already. So if you got that HT, Martinelli or Rashford to start. Rashford. I mean, don't bench Rashford. Trippier, Dunk, me, Penaku to bench. I mean, I'd bench Trippier there. Yeah. From this game week, I mean, I think the team is good. I mean, I've got most of the key assets, bar Salah, covered. I mean, you just can't cover all bases anyway. There's always going to be some swings. There's always going to be something that is kind of luck-based, and you just got to go with it. Some things are just outside your control. I think I'm fairly well set up, and I'm not really too bothered. I think it should be a fairly decent week, but let's wait and see. Edison and Andreas to steal and Matoma for a -4 for just 1 week. I'm taking wildcard in 28. Yeah, I think it's worth it, the Mantis, yeah. Sold Haaland and KDB and Garnacho to bring in Salah, Tony and Jensen. Looks very good, and Jensen could be a great differential. I like that. Paulson and Boomer. Not my favourite, but if you are looking to go double Brentford attack, it looks very good. My issue is just occupying 2 of the 3 forward slots with Brentford, but you know, you do cover 27, 28 very well. It's just you'd also want the likes of Harry Kane and Watkins there, and in 29, but yeah, it's fine. One change, Brentford or Brighton defence. I think Brighton have a better defence in general, both home and away. The thing is with Brentford, they're very solid mainly at home. They're tough to beat, but away from home, they have a pretty poor record. A lot of draws, not enough wins. But yeah, for me, Brighton, and I'd go for Stupinian. He's the best one of all of them for me. Start Andreas or White? Possibly Andreas. Yeah, wasting. Honestly, I'm not very good at these because last week I think I said it could be one of Trossard or Martinelli, mainly Trossard being benched. And, I mean, Trossard got subbed off after 20 minutes because of an injury. But, yeah, I didn't expect everything that happened. Benching Shock. I mean, I wouldn't really involve a City one because nothing there is a shock, you know. Even if Haaland was benched, I don't think any of us would bat an eyelid. Benching Shock. Oh, that's a good question. I don't think I'd get it, honestly. I have to think about that one. Park Kepa, Forster, Odegaard, Gabriel Mings. Um, yeah, Kepa or Forster, I would go for. I think Forster's more likely to keep a clean sheet. I'd go for him. Odegaard, Gabriel Mings. Odegaard. Bench one, Haaland, Kane, Rashford, or Martinelli. Martinelli, yeah. He's the one to bench from those four, in my opinion. I'm going for Matoma right now, but it's a quite close one. Thank you, Islam, for the shout out. Captain Matoma Rashford, I'm going for Matoma. Is Sanchez playing? No, I don't think so. From those three, it's Tony, yeah. Abhishek says, roll the transfer and play Kepa plus 2 Brighton and Stupinian March, or 2 Sanchez and Odegaard, 2 David De Gea, Pope, / Ward and Matoma. If option 2, then which goalkeeper? Thanks in advance. Okay, I'd honestly rather roll the transfer and play 2 Brighton, Abhishek. I think that might be the best for not only 27, but also bearing in mind 28 and 29 and future transfers as well. Felix or Watkins in 28? Watkins. Rashford captain. From the single game week options, he's my favourite. Then it's Kane, then Salah. But I do prefer the double game week options slightly more. My midfield, Gakpo, Salah, Rashford, Matoma, Odegaard. I want to bring in much for Odegaard, then bench Saka. I think that's fairly standard and it makes sense, but just bear in mind in 28, Arsenal, a really good way of navigating that. Brighton obviously blank, so that could be the issue, but looks good. Start Watkins or Kane? Kane. I'd bench Watkins this week, but Watkins is someone you would like for 28 and 29. March or McAllister? March. I think it's not even just will Conte leave, it's a matter of when. I think he will leave in the summer. Yeah, it's very toxic there. And also with Conte, he's a winner, or, he likes to win. I mean, we all do, but Conte, he just doesn't like the situation there. And it's kind of a lost cause, I think, with them. Spurs need a rebuild. Conte isn't really the right guy for that. And I think I said this even a year or two ago when Spurs were doing well on the Conte. Yeah, the results are going for them at that point, and they're looking good, and they have this kind of manager bounce. But at one point, the fans will get sick of the style of football, and if the results aren't there, and you've got a poor style of football, it's just a matter of time in terms of when he's going to go. You've got Conte himself. He's not getting back particularly well. He wants a left centre back. He gets Langley. He also wants a right wing back. He gets Jed Spence. And you can see by the fact that he never plays Jed Spence that he's not really a Conte signing. Basuma hasn't done well. Richarlison's been awful. 0 Premier League goals, and we're in March. I mean, yeah, even Conte himself said it yesterday. Thank you, Lorcan. Start White or Gabriel? I think Gabriel, just because I think White, just the attacking threat, I think Gabriel's more likely to score. He actually scored against Fulham early in the season. Yeah, I think Gabriel. The only thing that could work in White's favour is being subbed off early and Arsenal concedes shortly afterwards. But yeah, I think Gabriel. Do you think Chelsea should play Enzo as Fabregas role? I mean, that's not a bad comparison. I think Fabregas was way better in terms of creativity and vision. Enzo is maybe a bit more of an all-rounder. I mean, Fabregas was very underrated in his time, especially when he was at Arsenal. He was fantastic. Probably one of the best midfielders in the league. On Gerrard and Lampard's level, when everyone was banging on about who was the best between them. I mean, yeah, I can see what you're saying there. They're quite similar in some regards, but honestly, with Enzo, I think playing a midfield three, playing Enzo next to a sitting midfielder. And I know Kante's not really a sitting midfielder, but if you even have someone who can cover defensively in Kante and then have Kovacic, I think you have more of a balanced midfield, and you can also control games more as well. I think that is pretty much it. Fabregas could play as an attacking midfielder, but yeah, you put Fabregas anywhere in the midfield, he'll do a job for you, basically. Am I a clown to ship off Haaland for Salah Nunez? I want to say you're a clown, but I don't see the appeal of that, really, to do it now. Honestly, with Haaland, the players I'd sell him to include Watkins and players who play in 28. Unless you're going to free hit in 28, then fine, fair enough. But honestly, I wouldn't sell Haaland to Nunez. Not right now. Poch coming back, potentially, but I don't really see him. Look, if Spurs are going to rebuild, then yeah, he's probably the best option they have to do that. But I don't know, it's going to take some time for Spurs to be where they want to be. And I don't see them reaching the heights they did between 2015 and 2017. Shaw, Ake. Sure. Ben Me or Henry? Ben Me for me still. Do you think the reported knock will have an effect on March's minutes? It could do, but honestly, I still think he'll start one game at the very least, and I personally think he starts both. Mitoma or Tony captain, it's already covered, and you can see on screen, Kante and Kovacic love to go up. Yeah, that's true. The thing is with Chelsea, they still need a defensive midfielder. After all they spend, they need a defensive midfielder. But the thing is with Kante, I'm pretty sure if you've got Kante, Kovacic and Enzo, Kante will be told to sit. But honestly, with the way Potter's playing Enzo, he's probably going to still be playing there as kind of more of a deeper role. I'm going March captain because we are a March. Fair enough. You can't argue with that logic. Good luck, managers. See you, Dylan. Good luck, Najimi, as well. Or Najmi, should I say. Why did you start Trippier over Zinchenko? More likely to keep a clean sheet. Arsenal have been awful defensively recently. And the fixture, I think Fulham away is tougher than Wolves at home. Leeds and Palace have conceded more chances down March's flank. Yeah, no. I think there's an argument for all of them, and I prefer March over McAllister. It's just Mitoma's the most exciting for me, and also in recent weeks he's got the biggest goal threat of all of them. I'm going to try to not go through covered ground, basically. I hopefully you do understand that, but we have answered some questions quite a few times, so I'm going to try to go through some different stuff. So if you've got something new, be sure to let me know, and we'll go through it. Yeah, we've got, what, 27 minutes left for the deadline, so yeah, not too long now, and we have covered, I mean, probably hundreds of questions. I've lost count. I'm not even going to keep count, otherwise, yeah, it's not a good idea to do that. Saka, Rashford, Salah, March and Mitoma, bench one. I mean, I wouldn't bench a double gameweek option. It's probably Saka, actually, from those lot. It's probably Saka. So yeah, let me just show you one more thing quickly. We're going to go back to... Yeah, we're going to go back to... no, we'll go to here, sorry. Here, we'll go to the... We'll go to the predicted points. So, yeah, as you can see, for those of you that still have some captaincy dilemmas, which I have answered, my current preference is Mitoma, and Tony is shortly after. But the algorithms and most people, the effective ownership will all lie with Ivan Toney, and he's definitely going to be the most popular captaincy option this week amongst the double gameweek choices. Harry Kane is immensely backed here. He's only got one game, yet he is backed over March, McAllister, Mitoma, everyone else except for Ivan Toney, which is quite interesting to see. But I think that fixture is really good, and Nottingham Forest have been awful on their trips to London. But yeah, just a kind of reminder there of the top 5 according to Fantasy Football Hub in terms of predicted points in Game Week 27. If we actually change this a little bit more and do something a little bit different, and we look at predicted points, until Game Week 30, then it will be a bit different. You've got Harry Kane top, and you've got Ivan Toney, Rashford, Maddison, and Iheanacho in the top 5. I'm looking to bring in Maddison in Game Week 28 or 29 potentially, but yeah, I mean, Joao Felix, still not buying it. Fernandes is another one, though, I've got my eye firmly set on. But yeah, we've covered that already. Let's now go back to my team and cover anything else that needs to, but I think I'm pretty much locked in. Like I said, the only thing that could possibly change is the captaincy, and it'd be Ivan Toney instead of Mitoma, but yeah, it's one of those, and that's it, really. So yeah, let's whiz through these and see what happens. Bench boost, triple captain, free hit, still not used by my side. An idea when to start. Bench boost 29, I would say triple captain in 34 potentially, and free hit in 32. So yeah, hopefully you got that. Zilinos? Yeah, Zilinos. I think free hit 32 makes sense. Bench boost 29 and free hit in triple captain in 34 on someone like Rashford if he has a double. Tony will scam. Yeah, maybe. I mean, if I don't captain him, I don't mind that, to be quite frank. Bench March, Jensen or Kane. I mean, I don't get it though, really. I mean, why have all these double gaming options and Harry Kane if you're going to bench him? I mean, honestly, if I had to pick one, it'd be Jensen, but it's not ideal. Shaw, me, Trippier, Botman, White, bench 2. It'd be White and Botman benched, yeah. Dawson Iheanacho for a fiction, 28 and double in 29. Yeah, he's decent. He'd be my second favourite Leicester asset in terms of outfield players, but Maddison would be my priority, and I also prefer Watkins over Iheanacho. Would you bench boost with Kepa, Zinchenko, Chil and Watkins? I've covered this, and once again, I'd say no. Personally, I think 29 looks better. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of these questions. I don't know where the fear-mongering comes from. The game should go ahead. I mean, if it doesn't go ahead, then it's just kind of pathetic, really. Haaland or Haaland to Kane? Yes, I'd do it. Morning, Dylan. Thoughts on bench order for Fana, White, Longstaff? Longstaff will be last. It'd probably be... I'd go for White over Fafana. Yeah, just about. Raya or Pope? Raya. Any Liverpool League news? As far as I'm aware, no. Pickford or Ward? Jeez, I mean, wow. We're really scraping down the barrel there. Pickford's probably marginally better, but the thing with Ward is he's just a cheap, benchable option. I mean, would I rather have long-term? Yes, Ward, but not really expecting anything from either this week. Martinelli or Odegaard? Based on current form, I think Martinelli, and he's also not a doubt to start with Odegaard being ill. Start Felix or Odegaard? I think I'd go for Felix. There's nothing really to explain. He's 2 yellow cards away from suspension. He's fine. He's got 8 yellow cards. He needs 10 to be suspended. He's not an issue for this week. I prefer March, and that's why I went for him. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, don't just go for Martinelli to be different. Go for him if you back him to outscore Saka, or because his recent form has convinced you. But, yeah, I don't mind it. I don't really mind it. I'd still prefer Saka, but Martinelli over Odegaard is something I would consider for sure this week. Is Ward-Prowse good for this game week? Yeah, I mean, he's got a double game week. He's the best Southampton option by some distance, but he's very reliant on set pieces. Bench 1 is probably a Kanji. Start Ake or White, I'd go for Ake. Start Ward or Kepa, I'd go for Kepa. Hi Dylan, it's okay not to have Haaland. Yeah, it is. I'm looking to do the same thing. I'm looking to sell him in 28 and bring him back in 30 or 31. It's not really a big deal. It's not snowing here. It was snowing a few days ago in London. But yeah, it was snowing in certain parts. I don't think it is now in the areas where the game's being played. But yeah, I mean, look, in Leeds, I think there was a lot of snow yesterday or the day before. I might have cleared up a little bit, but I'm not a weather forecast man or weatherman. So yeah, I probably don't have all the latest information on that. And I'm not even that bothered, to be quite frank. Just play it with a yellow ball. It's not that difficult. Start Odegaard or Maddison? Maddison. Yeah, I just found last year on March is not performing well in his month. Really? Did you do that research? Well, thank you. I actually didn't even think about that. Start Odegaard, Trippier, Zinchenko. Trippier. March or Tony captain? I'd go for Tony. And yeah, you've got triple Brian midfield, so maybe that plays a part in your thinking, but I'd go for Tony anyway. Van Dijk or Trent? Trent. I have a huge dilemma. Who would you start between Odegaard, Martinelli, and Shaw? I'd personally go for Luke Shaw, but yeah, it's really close. If it was Saka, I'd go for Saka, but from those 3, I think maybe Shaw. Start Shaw, Trippier. I would go for... You know what? Because Shaw has got kind of lower effective ownership, I think that would be a huge appeal. I mean, the thing is, I do like Shaw. I just think recently United have conceded too many chances. And Newcastle have been in bad form in general, but yeah, I'd go for Trippier, unfortunately. Yeah, it's just you can't base your decision off that. Martinelli or Zinchenko start 1? Martinelli. No Liverpool news as far as I'm aware. If you see anything, let me know. Thoughts on Salah this game week? Probably the second or third best single game week option, but I wouldn't deassemble my team to get him in. When to use triple captain? 34 maybe? It just depends when you're using the other chips. I would start Watkins, I think, yeah. Anything to lose in starting Sanchez over Kepa? Not really, unless Sanchez gets 1 start or still gets injured in one of the games and then comes on. I mean, that would be pure trolling if that happened. Yeah, I mean, that's fairly standard. If you're not going to sell Sanchez, you could just start him just in case. I mean, that makes sense. I would have done the same thing. Start Elise or Odegaard? Elise has the double, but... Oh, my God. I'd probably start Elise, I guess, yeah, just for the double. Van Dijk, Saliba, and Trippier. Any suggestion? Any suggestion? I mean, who to start from those 3 is Trippier. He's the best of the lot. Van Dijk, I'm still not a big fan of, despite his recent returns. Play Odegaard or White. I'd favour the attacker, so I'd go for Odegaard. Captain March or Matoma. I'm going for Matoma. You can see on screen. You wear like it's never cold in London. I mean, the thing is... My room is just really warm. I don't know why. It could be, you know, in the summer it's boiling hot, but in winter it could be like -5 out, and it's mainly very warm in my room. Very lucky in that regard, without any heating. March's I nearly said piss fit. Jesus Christ, it's past fit to play today. I mean, De Zerbi cleared him. I mean, it's just a matter of is he going to start him or not. I think he will. He's going to be in the squad. There's no doubt about that. It's already confirmed by the manager. Rashford, Matoma, March, Saka, Martinelli, bench one. Probably Martinelli for me, but you could also go for Saka. Martinelli to Matoma or keep Nelly. I'd go to Matoma personally. I've been asked this question a lot today, and I'm not even sure why. It's just because Trippier plays in a better defence for one. Also, Arsenal play Fulham away, where I just don't see a clean sheet. I think Newcastle Wolves, it just looks like a really ideal game for defenders, a low-scoring one. I'd back Newcastle to maybe win 1-0. And I think Trippier is just a better option in general. I mean, he's got like double the amount of points that Zinchenko does. I think he gets few yellow cards in general. Better attacking threat. Better for bonus points for sure. Just so many reasons why for me. Best game week for bench boost, 29, then 27 in my opinion. But any game week, could be fine. Even a single game week one where your bench looks decent. But 29 and 27 in that order. Should I bring in Bruno Fernandes for Saka as a punt just for this week? I mean, the thing is though, with... I don't mind that. And also with Bruno, I'm looking to bring him in potentially for 29. So it might not just be for this week. Unless you do a bit of a switcheroo, bring Saka back in 28, then sell him again in 29. But, I mean, yeah, I don't mind it as a single game week punt, but I also like him for 29. What to do with Sanchez? I'd sell him. I'd sell him to Rye if he can. If not, go to Steele. Top 3 point scorer per game away from home this season. Odegaard 6.89 per game. Haaland 6.08. Tony 6. Anyone benching Odegaard, selling Haaland, or not captaining Tony this week? Anyone doing all three? Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm only benching Odegaard from those three, and also I'm not captaining Tony actually. I'm keeping Haaland. Yeah, I mean that away record is fairly impressive. It's just, I don't know, with Tony, he can be a bit frustrating sometimes. I mean, it's quite interesting to see the two Norwegians top of that kind of away form over the course of the season. That's pretty impressive. Start Mahrez or Odegaard? Odegaard. Do you think Welbeck will start? He might get one start. I'm not sure if he starts both. I think Ferguson deserves to. I think based on current form, he deserves to. But yeah, I think still starts. Haven't seen anything. How's Brighton effective ownership? I'm not too sure. I don't think it'll be that high. I think Tony's just by far the most, in terms of effective ownership and stuff, he'll be the biggest issue. But yeah, I think Brighton defender effective ownership will be around 50, maybe 60%. In some cases 70, but I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that. I don't know effective ownership inside out to know the ins and outs and get that spot on. Buy Matoma March for -4. I'd go for Matoma. Need your help. I'm playing Wildcard this week. Free hit next week. I'm bench boosting 29. I'll try to, Sanas, but honestly, there's so many questions in here, and I've already gone for a few teams early in the stream, but I'll try. I'll try to go for it. Zinchenko, Maddison as first sub. Maddison. Keep or sell Mahrez? Sell. Easily. I've been talking about this for quite a while now. Best 6 million striker, in your opinion? Brennan Johnson's probably my favourite, and then Solanke, but... yeah, I mean... I had to maybe involve another one, is Ferguson, but it's just his minutes are the biggest issue. And I also prefer other Brighton players. Short to Stupinian. Yeah. -4 to take out Odegaard. I don't know who for, but yeah. If you're getting in someone like Matoma, I'd do it. March or McAllister for Mahrez from -4. I'd go for March, but McAllister's fine. I have a benching dilemma. I'd start Darwin there. Start White or Akanji. Probably Akanji. And that also answers this question, is the exact same. McAllister, Matoma, or Tony for captain. You can see on screen I'm going for Matoma. And yeah, Tony's my vice captain. So yeah, that should cover it. So yeah, thank you to everyone for tuning in and all the questions have been sent in. It's been a pleasure. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe for new, especially if we have answered your question. We've gone through many in this stream, and we've also discussed quite a lot of topics, everything you need to know for Game Week 27 ahead of the deadline. We've literally got 40 minutes left as well. So lock in your teams, make sure you've got everything set up. I think really now it's just these kind of fine margins, these little details we need to tune and tweak. And in my case, it's the captaincy, and it's very close, but I'm currently going for Mitoma. Dylan, start Watkins, Maddison, or Chilwell? Okay, I would go for... I think I might go for Watkins there. Yeah. Good luck, buds, and good night to you in New York. Enjoy it. I'm probably going to go sleep after this. I'm going to be a nocturnal animal. I need more sleep. I haven't had enough this week. Me or Henry? I prefer me, but it's really close. Martinelli or March? March or McAllister? We covered. I'd go for March. Use free hit next week. But 9 playing players is fine. It's not really a big issue. And also, in Game Week 32, you might have even more blankers. Because in Game Week 32, it's very likely that Chelsea, Brighton, Man United, and Man City will all blank. But yeah, honestly, it's not too bad. I think, look, if you've only got 9 players and you've only got 1 free transfer and you can get to 10, but you don't have most of the key assets, you know, you don't have Kane, you don't have Watkins or whatever it may be, then fair enough, then a free hit will be more viable and also more beneficial. But honestly, I could see you getting more points from a free hit in either 32, 34 or 37. I prefer Saka over Martinelli. How do I know whether I use my free hit or not? It's pretty clear now. If you go to the website or even the app, it will show you at the bottom. So if I show you here, it will literally say play. If it says play, that means you haven't played it yet. If you have played it, it will say played, and it'll give you the game week where you have done so. It's very easy to find. And you only get 1 free hit per season. Last season was an exception because of the circumstances. Should I remove Martinelli or Maddison for McAllister? I'd rather sell Martinelli, simply because Maddison features in 28 like Martinelli, but also doubles in 29 and better fixtures long term. Good luck, superstar. Pinnacle Henry, I prefer Henry. Who do you reckon will be the most captain? Ivan Toney. So Haaland will have a lot of people that are inactive that, you know, people just have the captaincy on him. So yeah, I think it'll be Haaland, Rashford, Toney. Maybe not in that order, but I think those will be the top 3 most captain. When to play Wildcard? I would use it either now or in maybe 33. But it just depends on your team. I don't know what your situation is like. Haaland on the wild card, I wouldn't go for him. I would buy him back in 30 or 31, but I wouldn't buy him on the wild card. Is it stupid to not have Toney this week? I want to say it's stupid. You know, Ivan Toney has been a bit of a troll, and he's not been that great. Let's be honest, he's not been that great in the World Cup. Let's go through his returns very quickly. And look, this is going to backfire now and watch him do really well. But yeah, look, first half of the season, very consistent, of course. But if you look at since Game Week 7, yeah, he scored against Tottenham, which actually I've forgotten completely about there, by the way. I think, did he get a yellow card in that game as well? Yeah, he did. Yeah, he got a 12 point against West Ham. But then, you know, look, in the last kind of few games, it's kind of very inconsistent. You know, got a 0. Obviously, missed out the game against Liverpool. Let's put it that way. I think he was injured. He had like a fright against West Ham where it looked like he could be out for some time. But then, yeah, look, 9 points against Bournemouth. Very lucky to get that. I had him, by the way. I bought him that week for Mitrovic. I was very lucky with that. Leeds as well, 1 pointer. Southampton, 1 pointer. Arsenal, I mean, that goal should have been disallowed. You're probably looking at another 2 pointer there or something like that. Palace, 2 pointer. And then Fulham again. Look, I don't think he's been that impressive, really. I know he's been returning every 2 or 3 games. That's good, you know. I'm not going to say he's bad, but I think he's been very lucky with some of those returns. Bournemouth and Arsenal especially. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying that's the reason why I'm not captaining him. It's just I think Mitoma has been more convincing and consistent since the World Cup. Yeah, I'm going for Mitoma at the moment. Last one, start Maddison or Trippier. I'd go for Trippier. Welcome, Akash. Is Veltman a good option over Stupinian? I mean, he's not bad, but Stupinian is worth the extra 0.3 in my opinion. You know, bonus points, attack and returns, all of that. Do I take it for Sanchez to Raya or just play Ward? I'd take the hit because I think it pays off. Sanchez won't play at all, in my opinion, and Raya covers 27, 28, and 29. You don't want to play Ward in 28 either against Arsenal, in my opinion. So, did I just say Arsenal? Jesus Christ, I'm lost in the times. I'm lost against Brentford. Sorry. Yeah, I'd take the hit. Emerson Real news. I check it. I mean, I don't know what the latest updates are. But yeah, we've got 9 minutes left, by the way, so keep an eye out. Be sure to lock in your teams. The latest on Emerson Real. After the game against Milan, we have Emerson. He didn't train today. We will check him tomorrow. He had a kick, and tomorrow we'll see if he's available and he can be on the bench. That's the latest updates that was provided. It's all down to a late fitness test. He's at 50% chance of starting. Okay. Let's see if we can reach a new goal. So yeah, we've got over 150 likes. And we've got over 200 viewers. If possible, we're literally 48 likes away. Let's try to get this stream to over 200. So keep smashing the like button. if you're heading your way out, or if you've got your kind of team settled, or if you're enjoying the stream and the discussion, be sure to keep on smashing the like button. And in terms of subscribers, we are also making big progress. I think, well, over the last 2 streams or so, we've gotten over 100 likes, which is well appreciated. In this very stream, I think we've got over 50. So thank you for the support. Let's keep on going. And be sure to check the links in the description for the Patreon, the channel memberships, the Twitter and Instagram, Dylan RCM, the Discord server, and the FPL League. And also Sorare as well. If you want a new fantasy game, something a bit different to FPL, then be sure to check out Sorare. You can actually earn coins, which is a new feature, the club shop, literally by just playing the game. So be sure to check that out as well. I'll put a link very soon in the live chat. McAllister or March? I prefer March. Yeah, March as a captain looks decent. My only concern is the possibility, albeit a bit, I'd say minor, in terms of him being benched in one of the games because he's just come back from an injury. Do I go for Gakpo instead of Odegaard? In terms of if I had both, I'd start Gakpo, yes. But would I buy Gakpo in for Odegaard? No chance. Haaland to Tony for 3 weeks? Yes. Yes. Who's more nailed, Ferguson or Welbeck? I think it kind of sways, it ebbs and flows. I think Ferguson would be the one I have more confidence in long term. And he's also the better striker at the moment. I have Gaeta and Kepa -4 to get Raya. Honestly, I don't think it's worth it because Gaeta doubles now, and I know I don't rate Palace. I really don't rate them. But he's got a double, and you've got Kepa there who doubles in 29 and features in 28. So I don't think you need to take that hit. Zaha, I'd only consider him on a free hit. I don't like him as a free transfer. Kepa or Raya? Raya. -4 for Raya instead of Arrizabalaga. I don't think it's really worth it. The luck is on Tony's side, and I need all the luck I can get. Yeah, that's a fair point. That is a fair point. And look, I'm not using that as a reason why I'm not captaining him or why he's not a good captain. He is a good captain. It's the reason why he's so popular. But I'm just saying, a lot of his returns, and I've actually enjoyed them. I've actually started him in those games. I think they've been very fortunate. Play Martinelli this week and have Odegaard to play next week as well, or do Odegaard to Brighton mid this week from -4. I'd go to a Brighton midfielder from -4. I'd go for Matoma. I haven't seen any team news, honestly. Do you think Odegaard will start? Yes, I do. Odegaard or Gabriel? I would go for Odegaard. I see nothing about Liverpool, maybe some rests. Potentially, but either way, the league is the priority. You know, top 4 is, realistic. A comeback against Madrid or going on to win the Champions League isn't. Of course, they can't write that off. I think they'll go strong in both games, but there might be the odd rotation like Tsimikas in for Robertson. Me or Henry? I prefer me. Good luck as well, Jimmy boy. Sanchez to steal or roll? Got Kepa and planning to bench boost in 29. I'd go to steal. I don't think Sanchez will start, but that's just my opinion. Thank you, Ori. I appreciate it. Tony is in risk for yellow cards? No, not for 27. He's got 8 yellow cards. He needs 10 to be suspended. So if he gets a yellow in the first game of 27, it's not really a risk there because he's already, he's on 9. He would need another one in the second game of 27 to miss 28. But really, as long as he can get through the next 2 games unscathed, really, not get those 2 yellows, he's a good option for the next 2 games at the very least. What do you think about Tottenham defence this week? I mean, they're okay. I think the main appeal is the fact that Nottingham Forest have been awful in their travels to London. I think that is the big appeal. And Spurs, despite their woes recently, they're not conceding many goals or chances necessarily. Their main problem is scoring goals, creating chances, and being really offensive. Short of Stupinian for a -4. I think it's worth it, but Short is also worth bringing back in for 29. And he's also got a great fixture now in 27, but Stupinian does pay off the hit, I think. Start Andres or Martinelli? Martinelli for me. Best time to use the triple captain chip. If United have a double in 34, I'd probably use it there on Rashford potentially. But yeah, Game Week 34 does spring to mind. It is going to be the biggest double game week after Game Week 29. Darwin or Saka? Darwin this week, actually, yeah. Mings to a Brentford defender, no free hit, and just use wildcard. Yeah, I'd do it. I don't really like Aston Villa defenders anyway, and I'd go for me, but they're all good. Share or burn? Share. Brentford can keep clean sheet away. They can, but I think the main appeal of Brentford is also covering 28 and 29 too. That is really the main appeal. I think 1 clean sheet is possible, not 2 though. Bench 1, Trent or Pinnock? It'd be Trent. Trent or Trippier, I'd go for Trippier. Chilwell, it's not a bad choice. I think on a wildcard I would consider him, but I'd rather have Kepa as a Balaga to cover that defence. Captain Tony or Mitoma. I mean, Tony's the safer pick, but I slightly prefer Mitoma. I think I'm probably going to stick with it. I've only got 4 minutes left to change it, or 3 minutes now. It's about to hit 10:57. Haaland or Martinelli to start? Haaland. Start Andres or Martinelli? I'd go for Martinelli. Worth noting that Tony's non-penalty XGI away is 0.68, which is significantly higher than his home's non-penalty XGI. Yeah. Like I said, Brentford have been very inconsistent on their travels, but Tony has been very consistent with his returns. Whether it's fortunate or not, he's getting them. Captain March or Tony is Tony. Hey Dylan, why Mitoma over Tony? I've been asked this quite a lot today. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. For me, Mitoma's been more consistent since game week 17. I think Tony's been very lucky with some of his returns. Look, I like Tony a lot. He's my vice captain for a reason, and I think he is definitely worth considering or even captaining. But I think Mitoma's fixtures are better. Brighton. I think the big kind of plus point for Tony is the fact that he's on penalties. He always scores them as well. But also the fact that Brentford, they don't really share the goals as much as Brighton do. You know, if Mitoma doesn't score, it'll be McAllister, it'll be March, it'll be Ferguson or someone else, really. I think the goals are a bit more spread in Brighton, so there's kind of pros and cons both ways, but I'm quite happy either way. And it's also a bit different, I think, with Mitoma. I'm not saying that's the main reason, by the way. I think Mitoma can genuinely outscore Tony anyway, but I think the effective ownership is also something else that's quite nice. And also, you know, our teams are so similar. If everyone's just doing the same thing, captaining Tony as well, I mean, at least I'm doing something a bit different, you know, albeit not that different. Martinelli says Ori. Not sure what the context is. Tarkowski or Castagna? Probably Tarkowski. I mean, I'm not expecting anything from any of them. Best captain, for me, it's either Mitoma or Tony. Just take your pick. Yeah, it does feel like it as well, to be fair. I mean, I don't know, because literally last week, or not even just last week, sometimes when I have my team out and I've got the kind of traditional captaincy choice, I've got, you know, a really standard team, people are like, why don't you do this? It's a bit different. And then when I do something a bit different, people are like, oh, why don't you do this? You can't win. You know, you're not going to please everyone. I just want as many points as possible. I think Mitoma could do really well. If the game is called off, I'm just going to cry, really. Thank you, Tayo Cruz. I appreciate it. Yeah. Unless I make a late switch, which I love to do for some reason. I love overthinking things, but good luck to you as well. Play Bruno or Saka? Bruno. -4 Saka for Odegaard. It's not worth it. No. Martinelli over Kane? No. I'd start Kane. Odegaard or Trippier? I would go for Trippier. Saka or Martinelli start one? I'd go for Saka. Just here to say, love you from South Africa. I do this every week. Yeah, I appreciate that, Tobago. Big up South Africa, and enjoy the football, and good luck. I'm not sure what time it is there, but enjoy yourself. Hi, Dylan, please bench two. It would be White benched and Badiashile. Yeah, look, I'm definitely starting Saka, Trippier, Rashford, and yeah, it's just a question of the other two. I'd probably bench White and it's one of the Chelsea players, Badiashile or Felix. You take your pick there. I'm not sure. Odegaard didn't play. He was on the bench against Sporting, but he might have trained today or yesterday. I think he'll be fine, but let's wait and see. Start Trippier or Henry? I'd go for Henry. So yeah, that's all covered. We've literally, we're now in the deadline. I've captain Mitoma. Let's see how that pays off. I'm hoping I can get something over Tony captainers, but yeah. Yeah, Twister Parky, that's a thing I haven't mentioned. That's a really good point. I also checked all these players, March, Mitoma, and Tony, against their respective oppositions, and I don't think Mitoma did very well considering he did not start almost half the games. Yeah, maybe you're right. I don't think Mitoma started one of the games against the respective opposition, but look, it doesn't mean they will blank now in the reverse fixtures, but it is something worth mentioning. It's not like Tony, Mitoma, or March have a particularly great record against the respective opposition, but I believe March got a 10 points against Crystal Palace, I think it was, if we actually double check this. Or Leeds it was, let's see. No, Leeds he blanked, but Crystal Palace in game week, when was this? It was recently, yeah, in game week 23, March got a 10-pointer against Palace away, so let's see how he does at home. And as for Mitoma, I think he blanked both. Yeah, he blanked against Palace. He started that one. Against Leeds, I think he was on the bench and came on. Yeah, he only got 11 minutes in that. Yeah, but look, we can't look too much into these things, but it's a good point you make. You know, it's kind of an interesting thing to check as well. With Ivan Toney, you check his. I was actually surprised. I thought he did score against Southampton, but I think I got the team wrong. Yeah, it was Leeds. He got that 17-pointer against. Yeah, he got the 1 point against Southampton, and he also got Everton. I think I skipped it already. Yeah, he got a 2-pointer. But look, I think both of them will get a goal this week or all, and just hopefully I'm on the right side of variance there. It's a close call for me either way, no matter what the outcome is. Yeah, honestly, with the effective ownership that I'm predicting for Tony, I don't think it'll be as bad as Haaland, where if I don't captain him, any return will give me a red arrow. But honestly, him blanking wouldn't really bother me too much. Good luck, Punjabi, as well. Thank you very much. Chelsea won't concede if they continue to play a back three, and also if they play Badiashile. I mean, look, yeah, I think Chelsea won't concede against Leicester because Leicester are poor, and Chelsea are fairly decent defensively, but I still would have concerns about Chelsea in the long term, of course. Hi, Dylan. It's been some time. Welcome, Chu. Good to see you here. -4 to change Sanchez to Raya. Bench boost played. I would have done it. I think I'm not a big fan of hits for goalkeepers, you know me, but he also features in 28, plays in 29 with a double. I think it's fairly simple. Thank you, Nick. I wouldn't say that, but I appreciate it. Ward or Arrizabalaga? It would have been Arrizabalaga. Pickford, me, Ake, Trent, Trippier, Martinelli, Matoma, Rashford, Tony, Captain, Watkins, Kane. Looks very solid, and Watkins could be a decent kind of differential this week because even those that have him will probably bench him, and I would have done the same thing if I didn't wildcard and brought him in. Tony brace, hopefully not. Or if he gets a brace, Matoma scores a hat-trick, but I don't know. I don't see that happening. Arrizabalaga, Ward, we covered. Bench, Ward, Robertson, Odegaard, Pereira. Yeah, looks very solid, Nick. Got 299 on the F1 Fantasy this week on my best team, but unfortunately it wasn't the team I selected in your league. Yeah, that's... don't even get me started on that. Last season, my second team always outscored my first team. Even I intentionally basically picked my favorite team for Team 1, and for Team 2, I tried something a bit different, and that always ended up outscoring my first team. It was so frustrating, honestly. It was like, what's the point? But yeah, that's good. 299 is a fantastic score. I think I got a good score. I don't know exactly what. We can put it through here. I don't think it's a big deal. So let's go to F1 Fantasy. F1 Fantasy. All right, so let's go. We'll cover this very briefly. Wait, what? Oh, it's because I'm not logged in. Oh, God almighty. Yeah. You always have to be a bit sus, isn't it? Okay, we're just going to go back, honestly. Yeah. Maybe another time. But I basically had the standard Alonso, Lance Stroll, Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen, Turbo Drive or DRS boost, and Red Bull and Aston Martin. So all my eggs in those two baskets, it paid off. And I had Guan Yu Zhou as well. Guan Yu Zhou, who got the fastest lap. Alonso DRS boosters, if we can call it that, they were the ones who had the last laugh because the extra 10 points from Driver of the Day meant he got more points than Verstappen, which is a bit iffy, but whatever. I do worry that Brighton versus Palace is a cagey game. Yeah, no, that's true. And also, Brighton tend to struggle against Palace, but I really like the Leeds fixture as well. I mean, look, I could be completely wrong about the captaincy, and I'll be regretting it, but I really like Matoma since the World Cup. I think he's been very consistent, even more so than Tony, and I like what I see. I captain McAllister. Good luck, Charlie. I hope it pays off for you. Haaland captain. I mean, he scored a hat-trick against Palace. If he does it again, then yeah, I mean, you're going to be laughing. Went for Trippier Brighton mid on triple Brighton mid on the wild card. Plan is to change one next game week to field 11. Looks fairly solid. You can change what team you enter into the F1 Fantasy League. Well, can you change it retrospectively? Match of the day will be good tonight. Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't get me started on that. News: James' second penalty taker behind Havertz. Interesting. Where did you see this? I mean, Rhys James penalty taker. That's something new. My computer slowed down and I missed swapping Matoma to Tony captain. Hopefully Matoma scores now. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it might be a blessing in disguise to Sapaki, and hopefully for our sakes it is. So good luck, mate. It was my team 3 who scored the most. Very funny. What do you think we should do this week? I always like to look at the practice sessions first. It gives you a good inclination or a good understanding of which teams are, best accustomed to certain tracks. But I think maybe bringing in a Ferrari asset could be worth it. So maybe Leclerc for Perez, and in order to do that, you might have to make another downgrade. But honestly, I think most of it looks fairly decent. Actually, one thing I was thinking about is the Williams looked very impressive. You know, even bringing in someone like Sargent for Guan Yu Zhou would be pretty decent as well. Williams have been a bit under the radar. And another one is Alpine. You know, Gasly went from 20th to 9th, and Ocon's races was ruined by penalties. You know, without that, he might have had a very solid race. Yeah, Arthur Meller's in the Liverpool squad today. I mean, it's about time. I forgot he existed, to be honest. And he was such a big prospect in 2018, joining Barcelona. Just hasn't gone right for him. Yeah, good luck, Linus. Hopefully it pays off for you, honestly. Your success will be my success in this case. Notice that Saka and Odegaard have black shirts, but Zinchenko has a red one. Nice fail, Dylan. I mean, I don't know. It's not even me that did it. It's literally the browser. I think the reason why is because I swapped Botman and Zinchenko in my bench. But it's quite nice. I'll use my 2 free transfers in a hit today to get 3 doublers to get a total of 4 doublers. I still haven't used my wild card. Thinking of using it in 28 and the bench boost in 29 makes sense. It does. Let me know if you did end up doing it because the deadline has passed. Any wildcarders worried about Liverpool later? 9-0 versus Bournemouth last time, 7-0 versus Man United. I mean, I think they win, but their away record is still awful. Yeah, I just tried it. You can leave a league and enter with another team. Yeah, the thing is, JR, the reason why I mentioned the frustration from last season is the fact that in terms of your overall rank, I don't think you can retrospectively change and then select your second or third team as your main team. In the mini league you can, but not in the rank, which is what I was aiming to, you know, finish as high as possible for. I still had a really good rank last season. I think around top 1k, if I missed it, maybe top 3k. Yeah, I'll try to figure out. Honestly, I'm not very good at remembering ranks. You know, I remember roughly where I finished, but I don't go about telling people, oh yeah, by the way, I finished top 1k in F1 Fantasy. Oh yeah, I finished 700 in UCL Fantasy. But like, yeah, okay, well, good for you. What's your expectation for this week? A green arrow. Yeah, I got a green arrow last week, considering everything that went against me, and not just me, by the way. I'm not playing the victim card, but just, you know, those Liverpool players. I got rid of the 3 best ones, and I still got a green arrow. I also got rid of Ben White too. Scored his first goal for Arsenal. Yeah, I think it should be a good week. And really, if Matoma can at least match or outscore Tony, I mean, yeah, I should be having a very good green arrow as well. Let's wait and see. I'd say... So what's my rank now? Yeah, my rank is 131. I think I could break into the top 100k, although a lot of people will have a similar team around this rank. Captain Matoma, is Haaland to Tony a good move for Gameweek 28? Yes, it is. It is. And honestly, I would have done it now, but Haaland could do really well, and I can understand why you kept him. Good luck, Shepard. Time for score predictions. Yeah, we'll go through that now. I'll just see how many more questions we have. Oh, Jesus, I'm still a bit far behind, but... Yeah, score predictions. I've actually got a few listed down here on my phone, so let me go through that and see if I can give you some updates. So, yeah, I think I've got it here. All right, so let's bring this up. I don't think I've got all of them though, but yeah, the ones I do have, it might not be the right order or whatever. All right, here we go. I can get up. Yeah. So Chelsea versus Leicester. I'm going to go for 1-0 Chelsea, I think. So 1-0 Chelsea. Tottenham, Nottingham Forest, I've gone for 2-0 Tottenham. Palace against City, I've gone for 2-1 City. Man United against Southampton, 3-0 Man United. Fulham Arsenal is a really, really tricky one. I think Arsenal could draw or even lose here. I'm going to back Arsenal. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal win. And Newcastle Wolves, 1-0 Newcastle. In terms of other games, if we go through the fixture list here. Oh, for fuck's sake, I literally had it loaded, you prick. Oh, Jesus. Okay, we'll use this then. I'm you, FPL. Yeah, so the games this week, Bournemouth, Liverpool. I'm gonna go for 3-1 Liverpool. Excuse me, by the way, but I don't know if it's allergy season or whatever, but yeah, it's not looking good, bruv, as they say. Yeah, 3-1 Liverpool. Everton, Brentford. That's a tricky one, actually. I'm actually going to say 2-1 Brentford. 2-1 Brentford. You know what? I'm going to go for 1-1. 1-1 Everton, Brentford at the moment. Leeds, Brighton. I think 2-1 Brighton there. Leicester, Chelsea, like I said, Chelsea 1-0. Spurs, Nottingham Forest, 2-0 Spurs. I think City win 2-1 against Palace. Arsenal win 2-1 against Fulham. 3-0 for Man United against Southampton. West Ham, Villa. I think 2-2. Newcastle Wolves 1-0 Newcastle. Brighton against Palace, I think Brighton win 2-0. And Southampton against Brentford, I think Brentford narrowly get the win 2-1. So yeah, those are my predictions in terms of scores. So let me know. In my opinion, I think F1 Fantasy is worse this year. The teammate points and quality points actually made budget drivers viable. Now they will all average 0.3 points. I mean, I haven't experienced the game so much yet to, make a concrete opinion, but I have to agree with you so far. I think the streaks were a good feature. I also think, the teammate points, beating your teammate and stuff, I think that was really good too. It's a different, I think F1 themselves, I'm not sure the exact company, but it used to be Play On. They've changed it now. They've got their own fantasy game potentially, so if you want to play that, you could do that. But yeah, I think it's kind of what this does now. It basically pushes everyone in the same direction. If you check a lot of, teams, I'm pretty sure most people had Alonso, Verstappen, and then maybe even a second Red Bull driver and Red Bull and Lance Stroll / Aston Martin. And really, there's not much room for variation. Everyone has that budget option in Guan Yu Zhou, or maybe they'll go for a Williams driver now in Sargent or something like that, Nico Hulkenberg. But it really is the same team. It doesn't allow for differentials or going a bit different. I think the overall format of F1 anyway, it's becoming more popular. It could have 2 million players this year, but I think the format doesn't really facilitate for constant engagement. With FPL, for example, you've got double game weeks, you've got chip strategies, you've got blank game weeks, you've got multiple things to think about. But in F1 Fantasy, at this point, just turbo drive Verstappen or Alonso every single week at this point, Verstappen being the clear standout, and you go for the clear, teams there. So I do agree with you. I think maybe the pricing has also played a part in terms of how easy it is to set up a certain team and structure. So yeah, I think you're right so far. Hopefully it does change, but yeah, it's a bit too late for this season potentially. Thank you, Awali. Nepal, I think I've had a few people watch from Nepal, but not many. But yeah, really, really nice place. And it's good to see people from all over the world watch him. Akash puts his team, and it looks great. What else can I say? I'm not a big fan of Gross, but he was really good at the beginning of the season. Just playing a bit more of a different role here, sometimes as a right back, and yeah, it is a bit strange, but he's done the job. Yeah, hopefully it does pay off for you, JR. Good luck. Hopefully it does. Did Haaland to Kane on Wildcard? I think it's the right call. Even if Haaland outscores him this week, over the next 3, I think Kane is the better option. You can always bring Kane back in anyway. Did Mings to bend me in, and I'm still worried I didn't have the Wildcard or free hit. Oh yeah, fair enough. While the free March has done better versus Matoma and Tony versus the team's 4 this week, yeah, Matoma did not start 11 games at the start of the season. He has played 900 minutes less than them. That is true. That's true. That's exactly it. And March is the only one to have hauled out of all of them in terms of against the respective opponents. That is true. -4 to do Sanchez and Odegaard toward Matoma. It's too late now. Would I have done it? No, I wouldn't have gone to Ward. I think Matoma himself alone pays off that hit, but Ward, he's just not a great goalkeeper. Don't let the 11 pointer fool you. Yep, good luck wasting. Hopefully you can get to the rank you want and deserve. It was him or Reece, to be honest. Sometimes they have to feel it on the pitch. I wasn't watching it, but I was delighted when I heard the roar. Potter and Pages confirming James's pecking order. Oh, wow, fair enough. Yeah, thank you for that. I actually wasn't aware. I appreciate that, UK ANU. I appreciate that very much. And by the way, I'm going to put this link, by the way, that I mentioned earlier. I said I would. So be sure to check this out. If you want to play another fantasy game, I'm playing so many fantasy games at this point. I'm playing F1 Fantasy, UCL Fantasy, FPL, and Sorare. So if you check that link and sign up with that, you don't have to spend any money at all to get started. And you can also earn So coins in the club shop by simply playing the game. So be sure to check that out, and you can build a 5-man squad. I'm actually going to show you my team very quickly since we're already past the deadline. It's 11:15, unless I'm mistaken. I'm a bit tired, so maybe I'm imagining things. But if we go to my Sorare team, this is my Premier League starting 5. So the way it works is you pick 2 players in each position, 2 goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, and forwards. And for your starting 11, you pick 1 of each position and then an extra player, but it can't be a goalkeeper. So in this case, I've gone for Edison, Bukayo Saka, Botman, Rashford as my captain, and Erling Haaland. And in terms of the captaincy, it's a bit different. So instead of double points, it's 50% of that player's score added on top. And once you have a player, I think for a certain amount of time, you get a bit of a bonus. So 0.5% extra on top of the 50% if you captain, or even a 1% extra. So that's the way it works. But yeah, that's my Premier League team. And I think it's fairly decent actually this week, although, some tough fixtures there. Especially for Saka, but as you can see, two Man City players. I've got Rashford in there as well, and Botman has a decent chance of a clean sheet, but points aren't exactly the same as they are in FPL. It's not just relying on clean sheets or a goal or assist. There is a scoring system which takes into account, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 47 different stats and different factors, and they all are calculated into an average score out of 99, I believe it is. So yeah, that is how it works, and you don't need to get goals, assists, or clean sheets to necessarily get a really high score. But of course, they do play a big part, as always. No Paulinho helps a lot. Yeah, I think that's a really big blow for them. And also, two Sporting players are suspended for the second leg. I think it's Morita and Sebastian Coates. So yeah, Arsenal have been a bit fortunate in terms of, the next opponents and the players they're going to be missing. But yeah, Arsenal need to win, whether Paulinho is there or not, and it's going to be tough regardless. I benched Arsenal assets and started Maddison, Nunez, and Veltman to be different. I mean, I would have benched Arsenal assets anyway. The only one I started was Saka. That looks fine. I would have done the same thing instead of Maddison over Arsenal midfielders, I think. The rest looks good, though. Imagine if we had a chip that allowed us to captain 2 or 3 players, or the one wildcard used, the 12th man in game week 29 or another doubler. Yeah, I like the 12th man from World Cup Fantasy. That was pretty good too. As I mentioned to someone else earlier, the Limitless I like. All-out chip as well, so you can go for maybe 4 or 5 forwards or something, or maybe even you can go with maybe just 2 defenders or 1. That would be great. Kind of like a you know how when teams are going for a late goal, they go 4-2-4, all-out attack or something like that. It would be good. But yeah, that's a good suggestion as well. A very interesting fact, Dylan. FPL number 1, FPL Guns, hasn't wildcarded yet, is intending to wildcard after Game Week 30. That's why the ones that tend to win FPL, they have kind of their own strategy. They play their own game. And look, I wildcarded because I thought it was best for my team. I don't think it was absolutely necessary because my team was still in fairly decent shape, but I didn't expect, for example, Liverpool to win 7-0 and stuff like that, and for the whole kind of outlook on certain assets to change. But that just goes to show you don't have to wildcard in a specific game week or when content creators or when most people are doing it. You can play your own game and do really well. Now, he might not win it in the end, but he still played his own game and he's done very well for most of the season. But that is obviously, it goes to show there's not a specific game week. And I've actually seen quite a few people in this live chat mention Game Week 30 as a time to wildcard for their situation. How much will your team bring? I'm asked this question not always, but quite frequently. And honestly, I don't know what answer to give. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say 100 plus points. That's very optimistic, by the way, considering the fact I only got 49 last week. But yeah, I'll go for 100 plus. Yeah, Brentford only has 2 away wings, to be honest. Yeah, exactly. That's why I've gone for a draw there against Everton and a narrow wing against Southampton. I don't think they win both, for sure. Yeah, Tony should leave with something. Yeah. Went for Haaland out for Tony. Sanchez to Ryan -4. Hopefully Haaland doesn't kill me. Yeah, good luck, Singh. Hopefully he doesn't. And honestly, I've got Haaland and I don't want him to score, for Arsenal reasons and also because of effective ownership. Did Mings to Ben Mee, don't have a wild card or free hit, so don't know how to plan for future game weeks. AJ, if you are struggling with planning for future game weeks, use sites like livefpl.net, fpl.team. They are really good resources where you can visualize your future weeks and your transfers. So does that mean F1 Fantasy will be boring this year? Look, it can still be fun, but I just think there are a few changes they made, and there's also some rules that are still not clearly defined that make it a bit, I don't know, a bit one-dimensional and a bit kind of, how do I say this? Not like UCL Fantasy where being different and the amount of options at your disposal is really encouraged and you can see a lot of different teams. I think it might be a bit boring in that regard. What could be interesting is the chips, but even then, I think most of us will play them in the sprint race weekends, basically. Wow, thank you, Akash. Love from Mauritius. I knew someone from Mauritius as well. Really nice place. I haven't been there, unfortunately. Just got here, Captain Matoma Tony. This deadline is gone, so it's late, but I have gone for Matoma, and that is my final decision. Chances of Odegaard starting? I mean, I'm not sure about an exact percentage, but I'd say 70%. I think he'll start. It just depends if he, trains. If he doesn't train, I think he'll be on the bench. I'd be surprised if he's not in the squad. I started Tarkovsky over Gabriel. Would you have done that? I would have gone for Gabriel, but honestly, I don't see either keeping a clean sheet. Look, it kind of changes every week. It's between them and Spurs. I think they will. I think they're the only team outside Arsenal and City that can go on a 4 or 5 game winning run, which they've just done recently. 4 wins out of the last 5, unbeaten as well. And they've shown some great form, scoring a lot of goals, playing great football too at times. Yeah, I play UCL, Bundesliga, Serie A, and FPL. Jesus, yeah. Bundesliga, I've heard some great things as well. Serie A is interesting too. Worth keeping Odegaard? Yeah, I'd definitely keep him for 28 and then sell him in 29. That's what I'm looking to do. How to play Sorare? Literally just sign up with the link that I put in there. And all you have to do, we can go back to it very quickly if you wish. So you will have a choice. You'll have a list of players coming up and you can pick basically 2 players in each position. Goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders and forwards. And you can then ultimately, for your starting 5, you pick 5 players, of course, and 1 in each position. And you have an extra player, but it can't be a goalkeeper. And then, as always, you can pick the captaincy, 50% extra points instead of double the points. So, for example, if Rashford gets 60 points, he won't get 120 as your captain. He will get 30 plus points added on top of 60 points and he'll get 90. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And in terms of the point system, the way it works is they take into account 47 different metrics in terms of the point scoring, and I think the price is determined by the average score over the last 15 games. So you can sometimes get some hidden gems if a player has been injured or has been on a bit of bad form, but you know they are capable of some big returns. You can bring them in and they can be a great enabler for you. And you can start off with the amateur leagues here. So I've got a Premier League amateur team on screen here. You can also do it for the Bundesliga, Serie A, Ligue 1 and La Liga, so the top 5 leagues. And most of the teams and players are licensed. So yeah, check it out, and I think you can enjoy it. It's quite different as well. What's your plan for Game Week 28 and 29? Similar to before. So in Game Week 28, to bring Watkins in for Haaland and potentially Maddison in for Solly March. And in Game Week 29, I'm looking to potentially bring in Bruno Fernandes and Shaw for Zinchenko and Odegaard, or Mohamed Salah and a 4.7 million defender or below. So that is my rough plan, Sudip. I am 30th in UCL Fantasy in my country. Really good stuff there. What's your overall rank? I'm wondering there, but hopefully it's really high, and that's a really good score. Hopefully you can win it, basically, be number 1 in your country. I don't think I've been that close. For some reason, in UCL Fantasy, I can't see my country rank, I think. I couldn't see it last season, but I think I was up there. Don't think I won it, but that'd be great though. Hopefully you can win it in Mauritius. Matoma 10 returns in 11 games this season. March 11 returns in 23. Tony 18 returns in 22. Yeah, look, obviously with Tony, he's been consistent over the course of the season. He's got penalties as well in his locker. He's got the best underlying numbers by a distance of the 3, with March being second. But in terms of game time and, once Matoma's getting that, consistent starts, he's been fantastic. And he's just such a joy to watch too. But I'm hoping for big things from him. And actually, I've got a really good feeling about March as well. So, yeah, thank you to everyone for watching. And I'll be seeing you very soon. Hopefully tomorrow for the reaction stream, but I'll let you know. And I should have more free time on my hands. Over the last week, I'm telling you, I'm absolutely busy. Waking up at 6 and getting home really late and trying to do as much content as possible. The UCL deadline stream, which was great to see so many of you there. As always, I've got all the UCL Fantasy and FPL content out for the week. And next week, we're going to have more in store for you in time for Blank Game Week 28. And once the time comes, I will try to get some content for UCL Fantasy too. But there is going to be some complications later in the month, of course, as I have said, just to let you know. I will be on holiday, but my aim is to get streams done if possible. If the internet facilitates it, I will be doing streams from a far distant country, let's put it that way. And also I'll try to get as much content as always, but that is the plan. I'm going to try to be as consistent as possible, even if it will be difficult to do so. But be sure to check out the links in the description below, including Sorare. You can sign up now, earn So coins by simply just playing the game. And it's another one. It's very, very different. It's enjoyable. You can also check out other ones like F1 Fantasy and UCL Fantasy if you haven't played already. And I also cover UCL Fantasy on this channel. And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy it. And you can also smash the like button, subscribe for new, hit the notification bell, all of that stuff. Comment as well if there's any questions or maybe topics you want covered. that I haven't been able to in this stream, I can reply to you in the comments as well. And you can reach out on the Discord server, on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM. All the links are there in the description below. And there's also the FPL League with an auto-join link. So you can also add to the numbers and also maybe win our league as well and get a huge shout out. We're going to try cover the FPL League as well more often in these streams too. But thank you to everyone for tuning in. It's been a blast. It's been, what, 2 hours 30 already, almost? So, I mean, Jesus Christ, it's gone so quickly. Thank you, Sky Goal. I wish you the best as well for this week. Enjoy the football. That's really good. Wow, 469 overall rank. That is insane. And Dan, that is really competitive there, no Mauritius. Wow. I'll be there at the Palace game. Fingers crossed. Enjoy the football there, Twisted Parky, and hopefully a big win with some huge returns from, well, all of them, but mainly Matoma. That would be the big aim there. But yeah, thank you to everyone watching, Twisted Parky and everyone else for tuning in. Aaron for the super chat as well, and everyone else, all the channel members and patrons. I'll see you very soon, hopefully tomorrow for the reaction stream, and there's going to be more content throughout the rest of the week. See you then.